Exhibition Stadium. The Toronto Argonauts clinch a CFL playoff berth in dramatic fashion, and they do so at the expense of the Ottawa Rough Riders. J.C. Watts in the fourth quarter goes 35 yards to Chris Woods, a come-from-behind victory, and ensures a playoff showdown with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. But the Argonauts were far from thrilled with last week's playoff preview at Ivor Wynne in Hamilton. Midway through the third quarter, Ken Zachary finds a hole up the middle and sprints 34 yards to give the Ticats an insurmountable lead and first place in the CFL East. Toronto fans were starting to question their starting quarterback as the Argonaut offense was unable to penetrate Hamilton's stingy defense. From in close, Condridge Holloway cannot convert the third down gamble. He will be rested today. Meanwhile, midseason acquisition J.C. Watts has looked good for the Double Blue coming off the bench. He scores against the Tiger Cats and will start this afternoon. And Tim Cowan gets elevated to the number 2 position. The former BC Lion will also likely see some action. He enjoyed success last month against the Ottawa Rough Riders. And it's important for the Argonauts to win today. A victory would vault them back into first place in the East and push their record once again over 500. The challenge they face today, the Montreal Alouettes, who visit the Toronto Argonauts. Live from Exhibition Stadium in Toronto, the CFL on CTV. The first weekend in July, these two teams met at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal, and the Alouettes could simply get no breaks at all. Mike Letag's punt attempt is blocked in the end zone by number 27, Ken Joyner. Darrell Wilson recovers for the touchdown. Toronto wins this one 20-12. And playing host to the Calgary Stampeders, it is more of the same for the Alouettes last weekend. Calgary's defense is able to break through the blocking scheme and block Zenon Andrusic's punt attempt. Now watch Mike Emery. He kicks the ball, in fact, dribbles it soccer style all the way to the end zone, scoops it up there. The Stampeders win it 32-12. But there have been bright spots for Montreal in recent weeks. Wide receiver James Hood and running back Sean Faulkner have given the Alouettes an offense which can no longer be taken lightly. Today, an offense that is improving against an offense that wants to get it back, the Alouettes against the Argonauts. Weather conditions in Toronto today, simply beautiful football weather, cool, just a little bit of a breeze, and partly sunny. Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the CFL on CTV. The Montreal Alouettes, of course, are out of the playoff picture. They are already thinking about next year, playing for jobs and pride. But this is an important series for the Argonauts as they meet the Owls this week and next, because they must get ready for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. The Argonauts at one time were 7-3 and cruising along atop the CFL East, but they have just one victory in their last 6 games. Their good play has eluded them. They want to get it back. With their perspective on today's game, let's go up to the broadcast booth now. Pat Marsden and Leif Pettersson.
Hello again, everybody. Dan is absolutely right. Strike up the band. This is absolutely a perfect day for a football game. The Argos may not think so a couple of hours from now because they come into this contest really hurting in their offensive line.
Well, they really do, Pat, and of course that's been one of the biggest problems they've had all year. Center Willie Thomas hurt his knee this week. He will not play, and that means that Dan Petchnik will play at center. Well, he's never played there before. Jim Kardash, he's the right guard today. He was a tight end at Western, so, you know, they're really hurting. And I talked to Brett Williams, who plays defensive tackle for Montreal earlier, and he said he's extremely excited at his prospects today. He's got a chance to win the sack title in the league, and he could have a great day against this offensive line.
You know, Leif, it's funny. I get the feeling that the Argos, despite the fact that they're fighting for first place, are really not as organized as you might expect for a club in that position.
Well, you get that feeling because they have to make changes. Condridge Holloway is the third-string quarterback today. J.C. Watts will play. It could be run for your life for him. And, you know, when you're tuning up for the playoffs, you want to have your set squad. Today they don't. For his final perspective on the game, let's go down to field level and Dan Matheson.
Leif, an interesting footnote. At this time last year, the Alouettes were 8-8, tied for first place in the East. The Argonauts were last. We'll have the opening kickoff in just a moment. This is the CFL on CTV.
Volpe here.
Well, again, we're not going to have a very big crowd here at Exhibition Stadium, but those that are here could not have picked a better afternoon to come down by the lake here at Lake Ontario, because it's gorgeous. It rained in Toronto yesterday, we are told. We were, of course, in the nation's capital for that thrilling 16-16 overtime tie between the Edmonton Eskimos and the Ottawa Rough Riders. Today should be a very entertaining football game. The Alouettes have shown in the past few weeks that they are capable of getting things together. I mean, you've got to remember that they beat the BC Lions. They also beat the Edmonton Eskimos. So they are quite capable of knocking off the Toronto Argonauts here this afternoon. Bud Ulrich will be the referee for this afternoon's ball game. Sean Faulkner and Jeff Treflin are back to receive this kickoff as Lance Choming gets it down to about the 16-yard line, and Treflin, who was covering his eyes, takes it in at that point. And the little guy's over the 35 to the 37, and that's where the Montreal Alouettes will put it into play. Let's line them up offensively for you. They don't score an awful lot of points, but they've been coming on in recent weeks thanks to the addition primarily of their new running back, Sean Faulkner, whom you met off the top of the show from Western Michigan.
Of course, the nice thing that they've been able to do is keep that same lineup for the past 3-4 weeks. Gerald Alphin starts again at slot back, and James Hood, what a fabulous year he's had. 91 receptions, and he's just played super.
So it's first down Montreal from the 37, and the handoff goes to Sean Faulkner, and he explodes over the 45 to about the 46.5. He'll be very close to the first down. Daryl Moyer, 24, and Paul Tripoli, 28, combined to bring him down.
Another area where Gary Durchik, the head coach of the Alouettes, is so pleased is that offensive line. This group now been together for 6 weeks, and they've done an excellent job in providing that pass protection for Brian Ransom. That's the group that they'll face. The front four of the Toronto Argonauts, not too great at sacking the quarterback, only 38, and that ranks them last in the CFL.
The Alouettes have really been hit by injuries this year when you consider that Nick Araki, their great tight end, Paul Gray, fine linebacker, Roy Kurtz, their kicker, Brian Dudley at the defensive halfback, Lamont Jeffers, an outstanding linebacker, William Mitchell, a middle linebacker, Steve Rocky, all of them out with injuries. No wonder they have managed with 4 wins. It is first down Montreal. Faulkner got the 10 yards, and he gets the ball again. And Faulkner crosses the 50 to the 52. He'll have a solid 5-yard pickup. Don Moan, 36, and Carl Braisley, number 2, combined to bring him down. We
thought maybe Willie Pless, the rookie sensation for the Toronto Argonauts, might get back into the lineup today. He just wasn't ready to go, so that means once again number 72, Gary Moten, is in at that outside linebacking spot. And there you see the defensive secondary. Of course, Carl Braisley, the best one back there.
So it's second down and 5 for the Alouettes. Brian Ransom looks, throws. He had no shot for the completion to Sean Faulkner because all over him was Gary Moten, the linebacker.
And, you know, I think that's an indication of what we might see from the Toronto Argonauts this afternoon. They came with a safety blitz, number 28, Paul Tripoli, along with 72, Gary Moten, and they're going to have to try and put some extra pressure on through blitzing. They're not getting that production from the front four, so you've got to start bringing some folks.
So Chris Woods and Carl Brazeley, 85 and 2, are back to receive this punt from Zenon Andrusishin, who of course performed for so many years with the Argonauts before heading to Hamilton and also the USFL. Gets it away to Brazeley at the 23-yard line, and a big seam opens up. A penalty marker is down, however, way back in Toronto territory. Brazeley is all the way down to the 33-yard line. Let's see if it's going to stand. It is not. They're going to bring it back. The marker is back at the Toronto 25-yard line. It was a 35-yard punt and a 55-yard return. All for naught.
Well, when you're struggling, you know, it just seems like you don't get the breaks, and that's a lot of yardage they've lost there.
Number 19 on the run back. First down.
Good blitz, buddy.
Donahue Grant, number 19, called for that illegal block. The Argos are back to their 15-yard line as J.C. Watts, number 6, comes out to quarterback the club. He'll have William Miller and Warren Hudson as his two backs, and this is Miller. And the former Winnipeg Blue Bomber gets the ball to the 20-yard line for a pickup of 5. Let's set that Argonaut offense for you. J.C. Watts, formerly of Ottawa. William Miller, formerly of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And Warren Hudson, a junior from the Oshawa Hawkeyes.
And in that receiving core, you see the newcomer to the Argonauts this week is the slot back, number 1, Joe Phillips. He had some experience in 1985 with the Washington Redskins, played a few games for them, was with them again this year in training camp, subsequently released now with the Argonauts.
From the University of Kentucky is Joe Phillips. As Watts sets up the screen, and this is William Miller. And Miller has the first down. It's too bad that he lost his balance because there was a lot of room in front of him. He does get, however, to the 31-yard line, a pickup of 12 yards, and the Argos have their initial first down of this football game.
Well, there's no question that's an excellent play against that Montreal Alouette front four who gets such a good pass rush. And once you get them upfield, dump it off to William Miller, and he picks up a nice first down. Good way to start the ball game offensively.
And as Lee pointed out, they do get that good defensive pressure. They've had 70 sacks this year. As you look at the Toronto offensive line, which doesn't look like anything they've put on the field this year. Watts fumbles the football, but the Argos recover back at their 30-yard line. Glenn Kolka from Bakersfield College, making his first start at defensive end, was there to nail J.C. Watts from behind.
Well, initially the offensive line did a super job protecting for J.C. Watts, but they couldn't last forever, and Glenn Kolka came in, made the pressure, and Argos were lucky to recover that fumble. He's a native of Edmonton, Glenn Kolka, originally with the Eskimos, traded to the Montreal Alouettes for future considerations.
Argos actually have 2nd and 10. They didn't lose anything on that particular play, but they will on this one, because there to make the sack is the toaster himself, Brett Williams, and you'll meet him at halftime.
Well, the toaster, I talked to him before the game. I said the toaster's been unplugged. He doesn't get to play offense anymore, so just strictly a defensive lineman. And he said, you know, we're going to do a few things today to try and isolate me on the center, Dan Petchnik, because he doesn't have much experience, and that means he's going to go one-on-one. He came up with a sack, his 18th of the year. Now he trails Mike Walker, who has 20 by 2, and with back-to-back games against the Argos, he's looking at maybe getting that sacking title.
Only one man back for the Alouettes as Zalisic really drills this one. And David Martin is chased back to his 33. But because the ball was punted so far, the cover team didn't get an opportunity to get down there and cover. He gets it out to the 48 before Cliff Hewitt is there to bring him down. And so the Alouettes will take over when we come back. It's scoreless, and we will return in a moment. Well, as you can see, no score. Montreal and Toronto. That's J.C. Watts talking upstairs to the Toronto coaching staff. But after the exchange of punts, Montreal enjoys pretty good field position at their 48-yard line with a first down. Brian Ransom has completed just under 50% of his passes in 1986. He fakes to Sean Faulkner, and now probably wishes that he had given it to him. A penalty marker comes down, however. Gerald Bayless, number 99, is there to make the tackle, and we may have a face mask against the Toronto Argonauts. Interesting to note that a year ago at this time, the Alouettes were 8-8 and ended up tied for first place with the Hamilton Ticats. What a difference a year makes.
Yeah, it really does. I think injuries have really cost them this year. And you know what? We forget about Nick Araki. You know, he was lost in a preseason game.
Face mask, Toronto number 73, first down.
Number 73, David Marshall, the middle linebacker, is called for the face mask. And so the Alouettes pick up a first down as opposed to losing a couple of yards. The ball is now at the Toronto 47-yard line. First down, Als. Ransom sets up the screen. That was Tony Johns, but a fine play by Gary Moten, who sniffed it out, wasn't sucked in at all, just followed Johns and was there to make the tackle back at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, he really read it perfectly. You know, they had about 3 blockers out in front, and had they been able to pick off Gary Moten, Sean Faulkner really had some running room. But I was mentioning earlier, I think the loss of Nick Araki really hurt them. He's such a stabilizing force on that offense, and such a good guy just to have around the locker room with his experience in that. And I don't think they've ever recouped from that loss.
No, and 9 of the Al injuries, 9 of the 10 were ones that were starters. I mean, we're not talking about backup people. The pass is complete to Faulkner, who's down to the Toronto 35 and has the first down. Gary Moten cut the legs out from under him with help from David Marshall.
Well, one of the real bright spots since he's come to the Alouettes from the United States Football League has been Sean Faulkner. Not only as a runner, he's had an over 100-yard game before, but as a pass receiver, he's averaging over 12 yards a reception coming into this game. And boy, I've really noticed that around the league this year. The running backs are really getting the great averages catching the football.
Faulkner, as a matter of fact, has 3 touchdowns in the 3 games that he's played. A total of 3, that is. And again, this is Faulkner, who wanted to go to the left, but danced his way over to the right side when he saw that the hole was closed. There wasn't much there either, as Rodney Harding, 77, made the stop along with Gerald Bayless, number 99.
This is the area of the field where the Alouettes have really had trouble this year. You know, for a team that struggled, they're 6th in total offense. You know, they've moved the ball pretty well at times. They lead the league in field goals, but what they want to do is try and increase that touchdown production.
And as you can see, the pickup was only 2 yards, so it is 2nd and 8. Ransom looks. Faulkner was the intended receiver, but Darrell Wilson, number 13, was there. Initially, Faulkner appeared to be open, but it was such a long throw that by the time the ball did get there, Wilson was right alongside.
Well, that's sometimes the illusion of the zone defense. It looks as though a receiver initially is open because he's in an open area, but of course that area of the field was Darrell Wilson's responsibility. He had plenty of time to get over and make the play.
So Zenon Andrusician will try a 41-yard field goal attempt. Daryl Moyer is the only Argonaut in the end zone. The Big Z's boot is good. Boy, he has been uncanny in his accuracy. 3-0. Montreal leads Toronto with 8:13 left to play in the opening quarter. We'll be back in just a moment. Zenon Andrusician kicks his 12th field goal in 15 attempts and now gets set to kick it off to the Toronto Argonauts as the newcomer Joe Phillips and number 33 William Miller are back to receive. Phillips from his 24-yard line. And he puts his head down as he gets to the 40, and that's where the Argonauts will put it into play. Mark Hopkins, number 77, was downfield to quickly make the stop. And Bobby Layden points out that that field goal by Zenon Andrusician now gives him 1,000 CFL career points.
How about Terry Irvin? He had a big interception last week, and 58 in his career for him.
Watts' pass is complete, and struggling out very close to the first down marker is Ken Joyner, number 80.
Toronto Argonauts have had success with that quick screen to the wide receiver, and of course the key is to get that fullback out quickly, Warren Hudson, to get the initial block. He was able to do so, and excellent yardage on first down. Nice spot to be in, 2nd and 1.
It's amazing. It's such a nice day. People seem to be sunbathing. They don't seem to be reacting to the success that the Argos have in moving the football. On second down, a yard to go. Hudson jumped. You should not do that. Excuse me, Miller jumped, and he shouldn't have done it, because that's not only how you get hurt, it also doesn't allow you to get those feet moving. But it really won't matter because Montreal was offside anyway. Well, will you ever forget the great rookie season that William Miller had as a member of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers?
Offside, Montreal line, first down.
Well, of course, he was the Shenley Rookie of the Year that year. I believe it was 1981.
There's the Big Z, 1,000 points for his CFL career, and he was many times the outstanding punter and field goal kicker in the USFL in his 3 years down there. J.C. Watts on first down. Boy, is it wide open for him. And he has another first down as he scampers inside Montreal's 45 to the 43-yard line. Rick Ryan, number 27, finally forces him out. And believe it or not, Brett Williams, the big defensive tackle, 71, was helping out on the cause.
Well, this is the fault of number 69, Rayford Cooks. There you see him right there. He gets caught to the inside, and when you're a defensive end against a scrambling type of quarterback, uppermost in your mind must be the fact that you have to keep him in the pocket. Don't let him get outside. Take that pass rush upfield and try and contain JC.
So he grabs 12 yards and a first down. Argos have the ball at the Montreal 44. And over the middle, that one was intended for Joe Phillips, but JC just threw it too high.
Yeah, JC's throwing his hands up in the air, too, as he stands back in the backfield. And, of course, that often happens with a newcomer. Joe Phillips has only been here for a few days, and he should have maybe carried that pattern a little farther into the middle because it was wide open.
Phillips is 5'10" and 190 pounds, making his first start with the Argos.
Just to let fans across the country know the situation in Toronto, Bob Abilovich has said Conrich Holloway will probably see no action in these final two games. He wants to see J.C. Watts and Tim Cowan perform, and it kind of makes you wonder what he's thinking about for the playoffs.
The pass is caught by Paul Pearson. It's another Toronto first down at the Montreal 31-yard line. And I'll tell you, that's a difficult area to catch the football today because the sun is really beaming down. And, of course, now that I say that, a cloud floats over and the sunlight disappears.
Well, I remember in my playing days coming into Exhibition Stadium late in the fall, that one corner where Pearson made that catch, that sun is just horrible looking back into it. The ball just looks like a little black dot coming at you.
The pickup was 12 yards. It is first down Argos. The ball just outside the Montreal 30. Watts' pass is complete once again. And William Miller is inside the 10 to the 8, and a penalty marker comes down, and obviously another face masking call. The gain is 23 without the penalty, and you can tack on about another 4 yards.
It looked like a real mix-up in the Alouette secondary there. William Miller out of the backfield was left wide open. Easy catch, easy run, 23 yards.
Here's the call from Bud Ulrich.
Face mask, Montreal number 32, first down.
Terry Irvin is penalized for the face mask infraction. So the Argos have the ball inside the Montreal 5-yard line. First and goal to go from the 4. The toss goes to William Miller. No chance, because in on top of him immediately was Rayford Cooks, number 69. Well, if he didn't look after the contain on that play that allowed J.C. Watts to make that big gain, he certainly was there this time.
Well, let's make that number 68, Glenn Kolka, who's starting in his first game at defensive end for the Alouettes. He makes the big play, and of course down on the goal line, what you really want to get is that good quick penetration. He got it, and he's put the Argos in a bind.
Ball is back at the 8-yard line. Watts throws, the pass is no good.
Well, Patty O, I mean, there is no substitute for putting pressure on the quarterback. It really makes all the difference in the world. That time, J.C. Watts, it was once again run for your life. I mean, you know, there's nothing he can do about it. You've just got guys with white jerseys in your face. Makes it really difficult.
He was looking for Warren Hudson, who made a diving attempt at the ball, couldn't come up with it. It's funny that we should have Zenon Andrusishin with Montreal here this afternoon, because Lance Chomick, as you see, needs just one field goal to establish the Argo Club record. And with that field goal, he ties the ball game at 3 points apiece. Argos 3, Alouettes 3. We'll be back in just a moment. .444 left to play in the opening quarter. Lance Chomick, the new Toronto Argonaut field goal record holder. He knocked off the record that had previously been established by Zenon Andrusyshyn. He prepares to kick off. Sean Faulkner is shading his eyes right now as he's in that part of the field we mentioned is really hazardous from the sun point of view.
Of course, Jeff Treflin also back there. He set a new Montreal Alouette kickoff return record this year, surpassing Hal Patterson's mark that stood for many, many years.
From the 10-yard line, let's watch Treflin. Treflin gets out to the 35-yard line. Darryl Moyer was there to force him out of bounds at that point. So Zenon Andrusyshyn put the Owls ahead 3-0. Lance Chomick comes back and ties the ball game. As you take a look at Brian Ransom, not a great season by any stretch. When you throw 23 interceptions and only 7 touchdowns, you have to hope that he's been learning from his experience, and I suggest that he has been. Look at the size of this one. Ira Albright, number 38 at 6 feet and 250 pounds, is met after a gain of about a yard by Don Moan.
Geez, they're helping him up off the ground. You got to have strong arms to do that. It's like working on the weights.
Off that one play, I'd say that Ira does have the weight to be a factor. I'm not sure about his speed.
Well, this is the best part. He's also the backup defensive lineman today. I'm not kidding.
If you had said quarterback, then I really would have got into convulsions. Good hit by Kerry Parker.
Good defense by the Argonauts on second down. You know, those defensive backs got to come up, and that's what you hope for. They come up and make that hit. Don't let that guy go any further, and they've stopped him. You know, you talked about Brian Ransom's touchdown production this year and only throwing 7. Well, the entire team has only caught 10 touchdown passes this year. And let me put that in perspective in just a minute, because it's really interesting.
The Big Z's punt is not a very good one and rolls out of bounds at the Argonaut 45-yard line, you were saying.
Yeah, you're talking 17 games they've played and only 10 touchdown passes by the entire team. Well, James Murphy in Winnipeg has 12 alone himself. Ray Alexander at Calgary has 10 himself. So that really kind of puts it in perspective how poor they've been in that area.
Only a 27-yard punt by Andrusyshyn. So Toronto starts out at the 45-yard line. Watt's pass is caught by Ken Joyner, and that little flanker screen is brought out over the 50 to about the 51-yard line for a pickup of 6.
Yeah, Kenny Joyner's hurt. They really hit him hard on that play. David Daniels, number 23, initially was up there to force the play back to the inside, and that's what you have to do. Force it back to the inside where you're going to get some help. You'll see 23 Daniels come into your picture. He doesn't make the tackle, but he gets Joyner going the right way where he can get some help from Steve Benjamin.
So the pickup is just over 5 yards, make it second and a long 4 or a short 5. And Watts is dropped from behind by Ken Cianconi. Number 75, Ken Cianconi, just circled the wagons and came in from behind, and JC didn't see him.
Well, that's his second sack of the year, and it's so good to see him back in the lineup. If you'll recall, last year he tore that Achilles tendon. You know, sometimes you never come back from those injuries. He's back, he's healthy, he's a starting outside linebacker once again, and makes a super play to get the sack on JC.
So in a 3-3 ball game, Hank Olisic drops back to punt for the Argonauts with 2:05 left to play in the opening quarter. Treflin at his 20-yard line. And he's racked up as he crosses the 25 to about the 28. Dan Rasevich, who normally would be first man down, was again, along with Gary Moten. Let's go to Dan Matheson.
Well, Pat, you were talking about the Big Z's 1,000-point barrier, you know, and I was chatting with him. He's really excited about that. In fact, he remembers the last time he kicked a field goal in this building. And I'll let you mull that over for a second. It was 1982 against the Edmonton Eskimos.
Boy, I tell you, time flies. I wouldn't have thought it was that long ago. But then again, he's been gone for a few years, hasn't he? The pass is complete to James Hood. The Argos, Carl Braisley, ends up with the football, but he's not going to get it.
Well, we saw the Hamilton Tiger Cats try that a few times last week against Carl Braisley, and he gets up there so quickly to force the play. He's one of those corners that's pretty tough to... You can catch that quick hitch pass, but you're not going to go too much further against him.
The pickup was just 4 yards, make it 2nd and 6. Ransom's pass is caught by Gerald Alphen and brought down by Darrell Wilson. Alphen gets the first down as he gets out to the 48-yard line, a pickup of 17.
Well, that's a great call on 2nd down. You only need 5 yards. Gerald Alphen at 6'3" and 213 pounds is an excellent target. And, you know, since he's joined the Alouettes, that's his 10th reception. He's averaging over 26 yards a catch. That's phenomenal.
And Gary Durchik really does believe that he can be a factor in a receiving corps in this league. Sean Faulkner, the ball carrier, slips through the line of scrimmage, has a first down, and is inside the Toronto 45 before Rodney Harding finally brought him down, number 77, a pickup of 18 yards. Look how quickly Faulkner gets by that line of scrimmage.
Well, they really do some good blocking along that left side. Kevin Molly and Lloyd Fairbanks open a big hole. Rodney Harding finally drags him down from behind, but boy, when you can establish that running game and then the short passing game as well, you've really got some momentum going.
First down Als in Toronto territory. The draw goes to Faulkner, who has been a workhorse in every game that he's performed in. Gets to the 40-yard line before Gerald Bayless, number 99. The Southern Mississippi grad is there to bring him down after a pickup of about 4 yards.
Pat, just before this series, Faulkner was telling me he has never in his life had a blocking bat that comes near the size of Albright. He says running behind him is comforting, but sometimes he can't see very well.
Well, he is a size, all right. Pass is caught over the middle to Jacques Chapdelaine at about the 31-yard line, and that'll be a first down. Darrell Wilson upended him at that point as the first quarter comes to an end. We are all tied up. Montreal 3, Toronto 3. We'll return with the second quarter in a moment.
Calgary Sun CFCN television bonus game. Use the game panels marked A to D. Match all 15 numbers and win up to $1,000 cash. Watch for bonus numbers alternate Sundays in the Sunday Sun TV magazine and between noon and midnight on CFCN television. Now, here are more bonus numbers. Call the bingo hotline tomorrow before 4 p.m. if you have a winning card. Get in on the fun. The Calgary Sun CFCN television bonus game.
Alouettes on the move as we begin quarter number 2. They have a first down at the Toronto 31, and Sean Faulkner picks his way inside the 30 to about the 29 before the middle linebacker David Marshall was there to bring him down after a gain of only a couple. Brian Ransom was good on 6 of 8 passes for 46 yards in that opening quarter. J.C. Watts 5 of 7 for 61. There's a look at what happened statistically in the first quarter. Alouettes had 82 net yards, Toronto 57. 2nd and 8 for Ransom. The pass is caught and very close to the first down marker. David Marshall, the middle linebacker, slid over there to make the stop on Gerald Alphen.
Well, looks as though he's a good yard short of the first down. And watch Gerald Alphen here. He kind of ducks down like he knows he's going to get hit. Had he spun a little quicker, he might have been able to pick up that first down.
Now, where are they going to spot that ball? They put it at the 23-yard line, and that means they're a couple of yards short. So they're going to go for the field goal. Zen and Andrew Sisson from 30 yards out. Argos jumped offside. Now, did they get back? I don't think so. The field goal would be wide, but it appears the Argos jumped offside. Gerald Bayless, number 99, which will give Montreal a first down unless the Argos were drawn off.
First down.
But that's not the indication. Toronto is offside. It's first down, Montreal.
Well, once again, a mistake has cost the Toronto Argonauts maybe bigger points.
Well, that's the point that head coach Bob Obilovich is making, too. He said, we're simply self-destructing.
Toronto, number 99, first down.
Well, he said he can't remember an Argo team that he's coached turning the ball over this much. There you see 99, Gerald Bayless. No question about that.
The toss goes to Sean Faulkner, and Faulkner ducks underneath an intentional tackle and gets to about the 7-yard line before Gary Moten finally brings him down. He'll be close to another first down if he doesn't have it.
Excellent blocking. Good look at Sean Faulkner here, and he's got 3 guys out in front of him and breaks a tackle there. Boy, he's a good young hard runner. He's not that big a fellow, but sure runs very hard.
And actually, they list him at 6 feet and 195 pounds, which I would be very suspicious of those stats.
Yeah, maybe 185, but not one. I saw him before the game without his shoulder pads on, and I don't think he's 195.
But he picked up the first down. They brought the yardsticks up, and it is a first and goal to go, Montreal. Boy, they have been impressive here today because they've done the things they obviously set out to do. They've run the football very well. They've had a very controlled passing game. And now they find themselves in a position to go out in front of the Argos with 13-15 left to play in this second quarter.
Well, this is where they've struggled. Let's see if they can get into the end zone.
The give is to Faulkner. Oh, I'll tell you, he's a shifty little guy, and obviously looking all the time. It was blocked off, and he hoped to get to the outside, but unfortunately, Gary Moten and Don Moen would not allow him to do so.
Don Moen having another good year for the Toronto Argonauts. A very inconspicuous player on that defense, but really game in and game out, never has a bad game. Gary Moten as well out there. Don Moen helps out.
He may have lost, you know, a half a yard on the play, so it's still second down and goal to go inside the 10-yard line. Ransom looks, throws, touchdown, Montreal as they go into the lead. Gerald Alphen. Well, that was pretty, and they just dropped back, looked, found Alphen all alone at the goal line. He steps in for the major score, and the Alouettes are out in front.
And that's his first touchdown as a Montreal Alouette. It looked like they were going to run a pick play, and then Gerald Alphen just sneaked under through in between the linebackers, David Marshall and Don Moen. Easy throw, easy catch.
Zen and Andrew Sishin will try to make it a converted touchdown lead.
Once again, though, the key is the good offensive protection that line's giving Brian Ransom. Boy, he can just stand nice and tall back there all day and not worry about getting sandbagged. And boy, then you got time to pick out those receivers.
Speaking of time, there's a time count violation against the Alouettes right now, which will move the ball back to the 10.
Time count violation. Montreal number 3. Convert repeated.
So this shouldn't make any difference at all to Andrew Sishin. The ball will be spotted, however, at the 17-yard line as opposed to the 12. The point after is good. The Alouettes are out in front of the Argos 10-3. And boy, you wouldn't know that there was anybody in the park because these Argo fans are not making a sound. We'll be back in just a moment. It was an 8-play drive, really well distributed, 4 passing, 4 running, and the pass to Gerald Alphen results in a 10-3 lead for the Alouettes over the Argonauts.
Well, there's Gerald Alphen. His first touchdown was as an Alouette. A couple of good runs in that drive by Sean Faulkner as well.
Andrew Sishin with a good kickoff. This is the newcomer Joe Phillips from his 6-yard line. Oh, yeah, I like the way Phillips runs. He runs hard, north and south, straight up the field, over the 35 to the 37-yard line. And Ira Albright, number 38. The big guy was there to bring him down.
Well, we're going to have a look at the big load coming down the field here. There's 38, 6 foot, 252, kind of same kind of frame as Pat Marsden.
And he might be faster.
I don't think he's any faster than you, but he gets in and makes the play.
The ball is at the 37-yard line. The Argos trail by 7 points, and J.C. Watts will try to get that back right now. Flag is down. Pass is complete to Joyner as Rick Ryan came across to make the stop in Montreal territory, but we have a holding penalty against the Argos. Argos look flat. They don't look very enthusiastic.
Well, I think it's a real lack of confidence, of course, on that offensive line, and rightfully so. You've got some guys playing in there that haven't been in those positions before, and they're going against, as we mentioned earlier, an excellent front four. That time they grabbed the toaster, Brett Williams, and they're going to get caught for it.
Holding, Toronto, number 65. First down over.
Well, it's funny that you should mention that because it was Dan Peshnig who's playing at offensive center, grabs the toaster. I guess there's no doubt about it. You can see it right in the middle of your picture.
Yeah, great camera work, guys. There's no question that Peshnig just was beaten badly and had to hope he got away with it, but they saw him.
So it's 1st and 20. Watts looking for Chris Woods, and Terry Irvin got a hand on it. Also back helping him on the play was David Martin.
Now, I mentioned earlier and talked about Terry Irvin, and he had a big interception last week. Here he's covering Chris Woods. No way you can make this catch. He knocks the ball down, but last week was his 58th career interception. That puts him 3rd on the CFL all-time list, and he's tied with Don Sutherland, who of course is a secondary coach with the Edmonton Eskimos. The leader, the all-time leader, Larry Highball, with 66.
I used to love Larry because he always knew every word you'd said on television. And the next time he'd see me, he'd say, "Why did you say this?" or "Why did you say that?" JC is dropped inside the 20 at about the 18 by that man, Brett Williams, his 2nd sack of the ball game. Williams really is a force to be reckoned with, and certainly is going to be a big factor in the Shenley Award balloting.
Well, I think he will. There's no question in my mind he'll be the Montreal nominee for the Defensive Player of the Year. And of course, with that 2nd sack now, he has 19. He trails James Parker and Mike Walker, who both have 20. And he said that with these back-to-back games against the Argonauts, you know, and their lousy offensive line, he may have a great shot to win the sacking title.
He might get about 15 more this afternoon the way it started off. Hank Olisic punting. Oh, not a good one. But he gets the roll. David Martin takes it at his 49. And does a good job because he shakes off a couple of arm tackles by would-be Toronto players and gets the ball inside Toronto territory. Alouettes are out in front of the Argonauts 10-3. We'll be back in just a moment.
I need to be wrapped up. Brett Williams has 2 sacks in this ball game already, and he was telling us that the reason being is that the offensive line, the Toronto Argonauts, is not really playing him 2-on-1. Sometimes on 2-on-1 situations, he's able to beat first one player and then the other. And he says they're not teaming up properly. The inexperience is showing.
First down for Brian Ransom, who's been good on 8 of 10 passes so far. Looks, throws, the pass is caught at the 42-yard line. And it'll be a Montreal first down. James Hood, number 80, was there to make the reception. Carl Brazeley and Gary Moten wrapped him up, but it was a perfect throw and a great catch.
And I do believe that's James Hood's first catch of the ball game. 2nd catch, Bobby Layton informs me, but of course last week he set the club record. 91, Nick Araki held the old record.
And this one was very nearly picked off and then very nearly completed as well.
Darrell Wilson really, sorry Pat, Darrell Wilson really came over and broke on the ball. Perfect timing to tip that ball away. He's made some excellent plays here in the first quarter. Watch, you're going to see a good ground level shot here. Gerald Elfin tries to get to it. The ball's tipped, and Darryl Moyer nearly comes up with the interception.
So it's 2nd down, Alouettes. The ball at the Toronto 43-yard line. Ransom going deep, looking for Elfin once more, but solid coverage provided by Paul Tripoli. Tripoli's a fellow who's only been with the club for about the last month and a half and had to sit out a couple of games with an injury, but he's one that they like because although he may not be the fastest man on the field, he loves to hit people, and as you saw, he had good coverage on the intended receiver, Gerald Elfin, there.
Of course, Paul Tripoli only started 1 year at University at Alabama, and of course that's not unusual at a big football factory like that. Sometimes you have to wait your turn.
49-yard field goal try by Zenon Andrusician is wide, and Daryl Moyer allows it to bounce through the end zone, but it gives the Alouettes an 8-point bulge now with 9 minutes and 35 seconds left to play. It is Montreal 11, Toronto 3. We'll be back in just a moment. Look at this. Well, as you take a look at J.C. Watts trotting out onto the field, we'll pass along the information that there are 9 minutes and 35 seconds left to play in this first half. J.C. has performed, you know, you wouldn't say sensationally, but certainly adequately. But the Argos just don't look like they're very fired up for this one. They get a break here, however, because with the line of scrimmage at the 42, which is where Zenon Andrusician had tried his 49-yard field goal, that's where Toronto takes over on the miss. Paul Pearson makes the catch and has the first down, ridden to the turf by David Martin. Coming into the ball game, Paul Pearson had caught 44 passes. That's his second reception of the afternoon now.
Hard to believe that he's been in the league for 9 years. Graduate of the University of British Columbia, and from all reports, they probably will be in the Vanier Cup representing the West.
Ran into Frankie Morris of the Edmonton Eskimos yesterday. He was really impressed with the University of Western Ontario. This is William Miller. A penalty marker comes down as Miller gets to midfield. Frankie was saying that University of Western Ontario Mustangs are really solid, have great depth, and he saw them yesterday and he was very impressed. But UBC, they tell me, is massive in their size. And of course, we'll have the Vanier Cup for you from Toronto a few weeks down the line.
Saturday, November 22nd. We will bring it to you live from Varsity Stadium.
Holding. Toronto number 65. First down over.
Well, again, another holding penalty against Dan Peshnig, who's playing offensive center today in place of the injured Willie Thomas.
Yeah, he'll be sitting by himself on the bench pretty soon. Nobody will be sitting beside him.
It's 1st and 20. And of course, it's the added responsibility when J.C. Watts goes back in the shotgun. J.C. has dropped at the 45, but now you take a young kid like Peshnik, who has to worry about Brett Williams cleaning his clock on every down, and then he has to worry about getting the ball back to the quarterback, and that time he almost drilled it into Lake Ontario.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair, Pat. I agree with you. I mean, to have a kid that's never played center before in his life, and all of a sudden he's got to worry about the shotgun formation. Watch this high snap, and that's a great effort by J.C. to come down with it. I think that's asking a little too much.
I thought the fighters were coming in here, but the airplanes are flying over us.
Well, you feel right at home with that, don't you?
Yeah, get the
Days
leather,
at Moose Jaw.
get my leather helmet out. Second down, 16 yards to go. J.C. looking, and now throws. And Chris Woods got himself wide open. Woods is inside the 15, down to the 13. Terry Irvin is there to bring him down, and that's what happens on a broken play. Because Woods was able to find some free territory downfield. He worked himself into the clear and picks up a 52-yard gain.
And that's the reason why J.C. Watts is starting at quarterback today. He has that mobility, and of course, as Pat mentioned, on a broken play, sometimes anything can happen. The defensive backs get lulled into sleep, and that's what happened to Terry Irvin, and Chris Wood sneaks in behind him. 52 yards later, all of a sudden the Toronto Argonauts are in great scoring position.
They trail by 8 points, but right now they have a first down at the Montreal 13-yard line. J.C. looks for the newcomer, Joe Phillips, but he didn't catch the football.
Now, you know, Pat, you've really had a pet peeve since you and I have been working together about receivers who jump to try and catch the ball when they don't need to jump. Looked as though old Joe Phillips there didn't need to jump, and he should have made the catch and just couldn't.
I suspect Joe may have thought there was a herd coming from behind him.
Well, there you're going to see it right there. He didn't need to jump. Just put your hands up above your head, make the catch, and then worry about what happens after that.
Here goes J.C. into the shotgun again. And again, it's a high pass from center. Who, but J.C. danced away from a couple of would-be tacklers and then goes down back at the 22-yard line. Sandy Armstrong, I believe, made the penetration, and then Rayford Cooks got in there too. And when he lost his balance, well, then of course J.C. had nothing to do but fall down.
Yeah, they got the good early penetration on the blitz by middle linebacker Will Coakley, number 53. J.C. does a good job to step up, but watch Rayford Cooks. He just trips his foot enough to knock him down, and of course that brings Lance Chomick into the game once again. But after a big 52-yard play like they had to Chris Woods, you like to take it in the end zone and just reestablish some momentum for yourself. They weren't able to do so.
From the 28-yard line, Lance Chomick drills it right through the middle. So the Argos pick up 3 more points and now trail by just 5.
Well, that's one of the things that's impressed me all season long about this Montreal defense. You know, they're ranked 4th in the league in total defense, and that's not bad for the kind of record they've had, and they showed a good example of it right there, keeping the Argos only to 3 points.
But you know, you made such an astute observation at the beginning of the ball game. You look at the defensive sacks, and normally that comes from pressure from your front, either 4 or 3. But the Argos have had about 38 sacks this year, and Montreal, second last in the league, had 70. So, I mean, they're getting very, very little pressure from their front 4. As a result, there's more pressure put on the defensive backs, and as a result, Toronto is easier to pile up yardage against.
Well, and apropos to that, Pat, you know, Montreal with 70 sacks, their secondary has 30 interceptions. Toronto only has 38 sacks, so consequently only 25 interceptions. And those 2 categories are directly related. You look at Calgary, or BC, for example, 77 sacks, 37 interceptions. Hamilton, 74 sacks, 42 interceptions. So those 2 stats are directly related.
So Lance Chomick will kick it off for the Argos. And Jeff Treflin moves up to his 30 to take it. And Treflin couldn't get to the outside, and that will be his shortest return of the year by far. He only gets to the 32. Warren Hudson, number 37, was first downfield to make the stop for the Argos.
He's usually the guy that's down there first every time, too. Brian Ransom, well, he's back in the game, and I've been impressed. We've done a number of Montreal games lately. In fact, this is the 3rd game in 4 weeks that we've seen them play, and I think Brian Ransom really has a future in this league. The offensive line has done a great job giving him time to throw, and that's been the key.
Give us to Sean Faulkner, but boy, he had absolutely no chance. Ran right into Gerald Bayless as he took the handoff.
Gerald Bayless is really gambling in this first half. They're playing an overshifted defense mostly, and that means he's right on top of center Glenn Keeble, and pretty near every play he's been picking a side and taking a chance. That time he picked the right side, he gambled, and he won as he nails Faulkner in the backfield.
Loss of a couple of yards make it 2nd and 12, Alouettes. The ball is back at their 30. Ransom just got it away in time. Fortunate that he did. David Marshall is there to make the stop. Number 82, Greg Holmes, a former Toronto Argonaut.
And once again on a 2nd down and long situation, Toronto came again with the safety blitz. Good man-to-man coverage downfield. Greg Holmes inserted into the lineup. He makes the catch, but of course well short of the first down, and that's what Toronto wanted to do. They got a field goal in their last offensive possession. They want to get that ball back quickly for their offense and hope that they can once again try to get something going.
So Carl Brazeley and Chris Woods drop back to receive this punt from the Big Z, Zenon Andrusician. He kicks it away from them, and hoping for the bounce, he gets it as it goes out of bounds at about the 25-yard line.
You know, as I recall, the Big Z, when I was playing, he was as good as there was in the league when punting. He watched where those guys lined up deep, the deep backs, and then he just kicked away from that low spiral. He gets a couple extra yards bounce, and boy, that's maximum out of your punting game right there.
48 yards net. And so the Argos, who capitalized on a broken play to get a 52-yard gain to Chris Woods, now start back at their 25-yard line with 5 minutes and 14 seconds left to play in this first half. With a victory today, Toronto could leapfrog over Hamilton into first place in the Eastern Conference. A loss, and they may not get first place back. They do control their own destiny. They have this game and next week. Hamilton has but next week. And on the screen pass, William Miller gets out very close to the first down marker.
Well, that's the way they opened the ball game with that screen to Miller. It was successful. Once again, they get excellent yardage on that play. It's an excellent call against a good pass rushing team like Montreal. We mentioned that earlier, but it's worth repeating because that's the kind of strategy you have to use against a good pass rushing team.
I really haven't been watching Will Coakley, but if I was getting the kind of pressure that I was from Brett Williams, I'd be more inclined to throw the screen in the center rather than throwing it to the outside, because much of the pressure is coming right up the middle.
Well, in the past, Toronto's had great success with that center screen to Bob Brock. Boy, in the year they won the Grey Cup 1983, it seems like they got a great deal of yardage out of that play. Conrad Holloway would go back, jump in the air, and dump off that center screen.
They come up just inches short of the first down at the 35-yard line. JC keeps it himself, and he has the first down for the Argos with fewer than 4.5 minutes now left to play in the second quarter.
I think one area that's really hurt Toronto offensively this year has been their rushing. You know, they're last in the league, and they only average 64 yards a game rushing. Now, you know, that's not a great deal. And so when teams are preparing for them, they totally just disregard the rush and say, well, listen, let's really anchor our pass defense, get it ready for the passing game, not worry about the run. And boy, that makes it a lot easier when you're putting a defensive game plan together.
Couldn't agree with you more. As Mike Soroska comes into the ball game in place of Paul Pearson. JC buys some time as he fires downfield, but Terry Irvin is there to make the interception at the 28-yard line. So Irvin now moves into sole possession of second spot on the interception list, slipping by Don Southern.
Well, he was beaten earlier on a broken play by Chris Woods, but not this time. He was focused on the quarterback. He saw the ball all the way high in the air, taken at its highest point. That's what the defensive back coaches teach you. His 9th of the year, and Chris Woods just couldn't get back to try and break it up.
And again, it was Brett Williams who put all that pressure on J.C. Watts and enabled Terry Irvin to come up with his 59th career interception. So the Alouettes start from their 47-yard line. And on the draw, Sean Faulkner picks his way out over the 30 to about the 31 before running into Don Moan. Conrad Holloway. Will he be back in 1987 is a question I'm sure that many fans are wondering about. Conrad would like to play again.
Well, he sure would. There were some really negative feelings after that loss last week to the Hamilton Tiger Cats. You could really feel it all week that maybe Conrad Holloway's days as an Argonaut were numbered.
It's an 11-6 ball game in favor of Montreal over Toronto. We'll be back with the final 3 minutes of the first half in just a moment. To 6, Montreal leads Toronto here at Exhibition Stadium. And the crowd just sitting in the sunlight, not reacting to very much that's going on the field. Mind you, they haven't had a whole lot to cheer about from a Toronto viewpoint, as the Alouettes find themselves with a 2nd and 7. Ransom crosses the 35 to about the 36. He's going to be well short of the first down by a couple of yards. As Don Moan, who has been active for head coach Bob Obilovich and the Argonauts this afternoon, along with David Marshall, are there to bring him down.
Well, Brian Ransom's only averaged 3.9 yards every time he's run with the football this year, so you know it's been entirely out of necessity. That's not part of his portfolio as a quarterback. He wants to throw it, not run with it.
And you could tell by the way he ran that football that he wasn't all that enthused. Had that been Matt Dunnigan, he'd have had the first down.
Matt would have had a blue mark on the top of his helmet from the guy he took on.
But and it's not necessarily a negative shot at Brian Ransom, but he just wanted to get down. Oh, what a punt by Zenon Andrusishin. Chris Woods is back to his 23-yard line. And now he's dropped at the 23. Good play by Mark Hopkins, number 77, who was in there to make the tackle for Montreal. Well, we're busy once again next weekend. Ottawa will be in Hamilton, and we'll be there starting at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. And then our Western crew, Dale Isaac, hopefully Al McCann, and Frank Rigney will be in BC to bring you the Bombers and the BC Lions. And then we'll go out to Edmonton to take a look at the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Eskimos Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Argos starting at their 25-yard line with a first down. Well, that, I'm sure, was not the way it was drawn up on the blackboard as JC gets out to the 26 or 27. Will Coakley drops him there.
I don't know if you could hear from our field level microphones, but the Montreal defense was yelling, draw, draw. But I think it was a broken play. I don't really know what that was. If it's a quarterback draw, you usually go back and set up a little better than that and then try and sneak through the first wave.
Clock is running with 2:15 left to play. Say this much for the Argos: when they look bad in the first half, they normally make some half-decent adjustments and come out in the third quarter and play better. They're going to have to here this afternoon. J.C. Watts is wrapped up by Brett Williams. That will go as a quarterback sack for Brett Williams, his third and his 20th of the season.
Isn't it funny? I sat down about an hour and a half before the game with Brett Williams and had really had a nice chat with him, and he said, boy, I'm looking forward to playing today. I just have a feeling against this offensive line that I can really have a big day. And
yes,
we put in a few defensive alignments to isolate me one-on-one on the center, and I think I can have a super day. He's had 3 sacks already.
And the Argos, with fewer than 2 minutes left in the game, will now be punting. Hank Olisic stands about his 5-yard line. And his punt is handled back at the 53-yard line by David Martin. A penalty marker comes down as Martin actually lost about 5 yards on the play. Warren Hudson again was first man downfield. A little illegal block by a member of the Montreal Alouettes.
Unbelievable, man.
Will bring the ball back inside their 40-yard line. Here's the call from referee Bud Ulrich.
Illegal block. Montreal number 22 on the run back. First down.
Wes Cooper called for the illegal block. And you'll see it right in the middle of your picture right there.
Yeah, number 90, Marlon Jones, trying to make the tackle, and no question about that one. Hit him right in the back.
1:40 left to play in this second quarter. Ransom floats it up deep, but the coverage was excellent on Gil Stiegel by Kerry Parker.
Well, Gil Stiegel tried to run a hook pattern and then spin it to the outside and beat Kerry Parker deep. There's no way. Kerry, of course, a veteran cornerback, came up to the Canadian Football League with the BC Lions after being in the NFL, played out his option, went down to Kansas City, was their nickelback in their scheme for a while, came back to BC last year when they won the Grey Cup, although he did not participate in the game.
And ended up coming over to Toronto in a trade that saw Jan Carinci end up with the Lions.
Yeah, good trade for both clubs in that respect. Yeah. Kerry Parker's had 6 interceptions this year and played well for them.
Ransom fires. Jacques Chapdelaine makes the catch at midfield. Paul Tripoli defending, but an outstanding effort by Jacques Chapdelaine gets Montreal 16 yards with 1:26 left to play in this second quarter.
Well, that's what happens to a defensive back when he can't locate the football. That time, had Paul Tripoli maybe been able to see it, he had a chance to dive in front and knock it away, but Jacques Chapdelaine makes just a super catch.
From midfield, the Owls have a first down. Ransom's throw is underthrown, intending it for Gil Stiegel. He couldn't dig it out of the turf as Carl Brazeley was defending on the play.
I've mentioned this on the air before about Gil Stiegel, but I think it's worth repeating because when he was in the United States Football League in 1985, he caught 16 passes in one game with the Denver Gold, and of course that was a league record.
Probably an all-time world, universe, and everything else, right?
Well, let me tell you, it won't be broken.
No. Ransom going for the whole ball of wax here. but it goes incomplete, and Carl Braisley takes a header over the Argo booster banner, and Gil Stiegel comes up empty once again.
That's a pretty good throw by Brian Ransom, even though it wasn't completed. He put it right to the right spot over the outside shoulder, and of course only Gil Stiegel will have a chance to make the catch and keep it away from that corner.
So the Argos are going to get the ball back with somewhere around a minute to go, because we've got 1:12 showing on the clock right now. Andrew Sission's punt hangs up for Chris Woods at his 18-yard line. He dodges the initial couple of tacklers and then is dropped as he gets to about the 23. So with 1:01 left to play in the second quarter, the Toronto Argonauts take over. J.C. Watts has gone all the way at quarterback for Toronto. Conrad Holloway is not expected to see action. Bob Obilovich wondering what he can do to get some points on the board in this next half. At halftime, we'll show you what's happened in the CFL this week. Take a good look at Brett Williams. Doug Mitchell, the commissioner of the league, will be along. And then Leaf will have the highlights. Boy, you'll be scratching to find a whole lot of those.
I think there'll be one.
Which one would that be?
Gerald Alphin's touchdown catch. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. That's what we're going to show at halftime.
Don't want to show any of those field goals or anything, eh? You don't?
No. I tell you what I could show, though, are some of the sacks that Brett Williams made today, because he's had 3 of them. He's played super.
You'll notice you have a quarterback change for the Argonauts. Tim Cowan in because J.C. Watts has a bad thumb on his left hand. Not his throwing hand, but they want to look at it at halftime.
Cowan throws the ball to Warren Hudson, and he simply took his eyes off it. No question about it. He looked up. No concentration to catch the football, and the fans finally do react with boos.
Well, I feel sorry for Warren Hudson. No one feels worse about it than he does. He's in his second year. He's trying to impress. He's getting a chance to play, and unfortunately, he just should have made that catch and didn't.
A lot of criticism of Bob Obilovich and the way that he's handled the club this year, and in many respects, it's justifiable. Bob Bronk played last week, played well. Now the switch is made today. Warren Hudson's back in the lineup. You'd never see the same lineup here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Pat. That's unsettling for the players. It's unfair to the fans because they can't identify with certain people, so I think that's a legitimate complaint.
When you've got injuries, there's no question, of course, that's beyond anybody's realm. But the change for the sake of changing just has never made any sense to me. With 26 seconds left, the Alouettes have the ball at their own 46-yard line.
Well, I think if Bob Obilovich were sitting in here with us, he would justify it by saying, well, now I can have 2 guys that know the position and can play it, and I'll have somebody always ready if someone gets hurt. I mean, I don't agree with that, but I'm sure that's how he would defend himself.
Unfortunately, though, sometimes you'll have a lot of guys ready and no league to play in. Pass is caught by Gerald Alphin, and he takes it into Toronto territory at the 53 as Gary Moten makes the stop along with David Marshall. And that brings the clock to 19 seconds left to play in the second quarter.
I'd say they have to go about 15 more yards for a legitimate field goal attempt by the Big Z.
Ransom with a fast drop again finds Alphin, and Alphin is down to the 46 with 12 seconds left. Now he doesn't have a first down. He's got about 7 yards, but I'd call the timeout right here, and it appears the Alouettes are going to do that right now.
That's good smart play by Brian Ransom, and got 12 seconds. Go over and talk it over with Gary Durchik. Of course, time for 2 more plays, so perfect spot to call the timeout there.
It's an 11-6 ball game in favor of the Alouettes, and they are full value for that margin. They've played a good, solid, controlled offensive game, and of course have harassed the Toronto Argonaut offense all afternoon. 13 of 20 in passing for 116 yards for Brian Ransom, and he has thrown the only touchdown pass of the ball game.
Well, this is the kind of game that Montreal would like to play. They'd like to have it a low-scoring game and rely on defense to win it for you. You know, they only average a little better than 17 points a game offensively, so this is right up their alley. Good, close defensive game, and hope that the defense wins it for you.
Speaking of good close games, Tommy Dimitrov must be just delighted at the way his Ottawa Rough Riders responded for him yesterday in that sensational come-from-behind 16-16 tie.
Yeah, I was delighted for Jim Reed. Big Jim had 11 carries for 76 yards, and I thought he just played super.
It's 2nd down and 3 yards to go. Ransom fires over the middle, and the catch is made. And down he gets at the 33-yard line. Gerald Alphin makes the catch. And now they have 6 seconds left, and that's time enough to bring Zen and Andrew Sisson and the field goal unit onto the field.
Oh, that's what I was saying. With the perfect time to call the timeout, Brian Ransom was able to go over and confer with head coach Gary Durchik. They decided the pass pattern they wanted to use. They completed it, and now they picked up about 12, 15 more yards and got the Z in good range. Gerald Alphin's had a good first half.
He surely has. This will come from the 40-yard line.
Calling O'Keefe Sports, the CFL this week. We don't have a bad ball game going here. Hope you'll stay with us for the remainder. But what we'd like to do right now is look back over the 2 games played previously this weekend. We'll start with the Friday nighter. The Calgary Stampeders wrapped up their regular season. And on Halloween night, the Stamps had lots of tricks and treats for their fans. They started early in the first quarter. Saskatchewan's Bernard Quarles guns downfield, but Larry Hogue is there to intercept and go the other way. He sets up the Stampeders' first touchdown, running the ball inside the Rider 15. Moments later, quarterback Rick Johnson calls his own number, and with just over 3 minutes gone, it is 7-0. Second frame, over 24,000 fans love this one. Little Richie Hall finds the opening and returns Mike McTagg's punt, 49 yards. Only McTagg himself is left to make the play. But from the 21-yard line, the Stampeders go in to score anyway. This time, Johnson puts it up. He has Emmanuel Tolbert open in the middle, 19-3 at the half. More of the same in the third frame. Now from the 3, Johnson has to look to find a receiver, but finally does. Marshall Toner makes the catch to up the Stamps' lead to 26-4. It was an all-round impressive team effort for Calgary. The defense does not allow Saskatchewan to score a single touchdown, and they swamp Quarles here in the 4th, recovering the fumble at the Rider 12, and they push it in to score. This time it's number 9, Jeff Tedford, pulling the trigger. Deep in the end zone, he has Tolbert open for his 2nd major of the ball game. The Stampeders finished the regular season with their 11th win of the year, 36-4. Meanwhile, at Lansdowne Park last night, it looked like Tom Dimitrov's Ottawa Rough Riders were overmatched. They had to take on Jackie Parker's explosive Eskimos, looking to clinch top spot in the CFL West. But the Riders had a surprise for Edmonton in reserve quarterback Gilbert Renfro, who comes off the bench to dump the ball off to Robert Reed late in the ball game, and Reed electrifies the crowd with a 59-yard gain. The clock now a factor, Ottawa trailing by 8 points. But Renfro gets 6 of those right here with just 26 seconds left in regulation. Mark Lewis makes a spectacular catch. But that still leaves the Riders 2 points short, so Renfro has to do it again on the conversion attempt. And he does, rolling to his right and finally spotting Glenn Steele wide open, 16-16, and this ball game goes to overtime. The Eskimos' place kicker Tom Dixon had the best shot at deciding this ball game with a 35-yard field goal attempt in the second half of extra time. But not only does he miss, but the Riders' Mike McIntyre, number 39, runs the ball out of the end zone to prevent the single point. In fact, neither team can score even a single point in overtime, and as the Riders punt the ball away to end it, this one ends in a tie. Edmonton 16, Ottawa 16. And after today, there is only one weekend left in the 1986 Canadian Football League regular season. Here is how they'll finish it up. The CTV Friday nighter has Ottawa at Hamilton. The Tiger Cats prepping for the Argonauts in postseason play. Saturday night also on CTV, but promises to be a dandy. The Blue Bombers take on the Lions under the dome. Sunday afternoon, a pair. We'll have live coverage of Saskatchewan at Edmonton. The Argonauts are in Montreal to face the Alouettes. This is the CFL on CTV. Halftime continues in a moment.
Over the years, your kids will grow out of just about everything. There's one thing your kids will never outgrow. The roomy Honda Civic 4-door sedan.
It's brilliant. Crazy Crazy's conjuring up some very scary deals on TVs, stereos, microwave ovens, and VCRs for the very crazy. GE Dual Deck Blasters 119, Whirlpool Deluxe Digital Microwave 344, RCA Hi-Fi VCRs with Special Effects 569, RCA Super Low Lux Camcorders 1444. Crazy Crazy's Monster Bash is on till Saturday. Check Thursday's papers for more details. Our prices are...
Sean Connery is James Bond, Agent 007 in Never Say Never Again. CTV Sunday Movie tonight.
This is the CTV Television Network.
Murder, She Wrote is on Calgary 4 and 5 tonight at 7.
Number 71 has been one of the bright lights for the Montreal Alouettes in 1986. He's big and talented and plays the game with reckless abandon. Calling O'Keefe Sports, personal and up close with Brett Williams. The Toaster has certainly made a name for himself in 1986 as a defensive lineman who also gets to carry the ball from time to time. But what is most apparent about the way Brett Williams plays football is his simple, unadulterated love of the game.
It's the only way there is to play the game for me. It's just naturally, I'm out there. And anytime I'm on the football field, I don't care where it is or what the score is, I'm having a good time. And that's just the only way possible for me to play. I always wanted to be a football player. I waited growing up watching football on TV, and you couldn't play where I was from, Memphis, Tennessee, until you were in the 6th and 7th grade. And all the time I'd waited to play. And my heroes, people like Dick Buskis, I really idolized him. He was really something else. And then the first year out there playing football, I found out I probably had the toughest coach I've ever had in my life. This guy would run us to death after practice, make us do sit-ups while he ran around on our stomach. And he's probably the guy that's most responsible, though, for the way I play and everything, because you were so excited and so happy to play because it was so much easier than the practices that that's one of the reasons I play the game the way I do.
Then there's Montreal's short yardage offense, in which Brett lines up at fullback.
Oh, that's really an adrenaline rush because, you know, it's a lineman's dream to carry the ball all the time. And you get to, and in my situation, I only carry the ball when it's 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2 in a really critical situation. So it's just that much more. You know, everybody on your team is counting on you to get the first down. So it's just that much more.
William Perry did the same thing in the NFL and was labeled the refrigerator. Brett dubbed himself the toaster.
That was in self-defense. When I started running the ball in training camp, and here it came, the kitchen sink, the microwave, just you name it, the names came out of the woodwork from the guys. So I said, well, if we're going to have a name, go ahead and call me the toaster. So I have to say I hung it on myself, but it was in more defense than offense. I tell you the truth, the goals in my league is, you know, I really want to be a Shimley candidate before I'm done, and I'd really like to lead the league in sacks at least 1 year before my career is over.
Meanwhile, Brett's pro career began with a 5-team whirlwind tour of the NFL and the USFL.
I had a coach named Chuck Dickerson who had been a player up here for 15 years or so, and we became very good friends, and my abilities were that I'm more of a runner, fast-type player down there, and that really eases itself to this league up here, which makes you a better player up here, more speed than size, more say. So I played out my options in the league down there. My last team was Tampa Bay, and they offered me a fairly decent deal to stay down there, but I had, over the years, I had really acquired a desire to come up here and try my tools up here. So I was really excited when I got up here, and in my case, it's a much more fun game to play up here than it is in the States.
The toaster, Brett Williams of the Montreal Alouettes. This is the CFL on CTV. Halftime continues in a moment.
Broadcast time so that our players can talk about the work done across Canada by United Way agencies. Many CFL players have participated because they know that United Ways and Sontreds solve problems for people in their own communities. And it's people who make the difference. United Way volunteers and United Way contributors. Thanks to you, it works for all of us.
The Montreal Alouettes and the Toronto Argonauts are halftime at Exhibition Stadium. Hello again, everybody. Time now to Ask the Commissioner. We put Doug Mitchell on the hot seat. Today's question comes from Greg Musession of Longueuil, Quebec. He wants to know about the success of the Canadian Football League being measured in attendance and what contribution do TV spectators make to the league. Doug?
Well, Dan, I think it's very important. We look at our ratings on a regular basis to see where we are. I think television spectators are tremendously important to us because they form a very important part of the negotiation of our television rates.
Every year, or at least over the years, the Grey Cup has been one of the all-time record setters for TV attendance. Then you have soft spots in the summer. What's your reaction to that?
Well, you know, if we looked at it, I think we'd like to start the season August 1st rather than the latter part of June, but just isn't possible. Maybe when we get 9 dome stadiums, we might be able to start the season the 1st of August and end at about Christmas time. But no, I think that's true, that we do have certain soft periods of time, but we look at it on the basis that it's part of the scheduling problem that we have, and we have to live with it.
And the TV guys are hard to get along with, right?
Very difficult to deal with, you included.
If you, too, would like to ask a sensitive question of the Commissioner, here's the address to which you can write. Time is running out. Next weekend is the last of the CFL's regular season.
I was interested in the Commissioner's response because Donnie Holtby, the general manager of the Ottawa Rough Riders, would like to see the league go back to double headers, and that's something we can discuss in future weeks. There's a look at what happened statistically in the first half, and really not a whole lot of highlights for you to show, but there was a touchdown.
Well, there was one touchdown, and of course Montreal had it. Gerald Elfin, their fine slot back that they've had playing for them for the last few games, was the recipient of that touchdown pass by Brian Ransom, and Gerald Elfin had 5 catches for 57 yards in that first half, and a couple of good runs by Sean Faulkner got them in position here. A little post pattern over the middle, 8-yard touchdown for the Montreal Alouettes, and of course full measure for their 14-6 lead.
It's funny, you ran into Norm Kimball, the general manager of the Montreal Alouettes. He wasn't too impressed with their play. We thought that they had played well.
I don't think Norm's ever happy, so.
Dan Matheson is happy because he's got a special feature for us right now. Dan?
Thanks very much, Pat. Before today's game, there was some extracurricular football here at the C&E. It was the 3rd annual Ford Pass, Punt, and Kick Championships for the Ontario titles. Those were decided before the game, and then the trophies were handed out at halftime. And we're going to show that to you right now.
Football League. In the 12-year age category, the runner-up is Ian Gwynn of the Thunder Bay Minor Football Association. And the winner is Paul De Silva of the Scarborough Boys Football League.
Is there an on-off switch on it or not?
In the 14-year-old age category, the runner-up is Sam Gruel of the Brantford Youth Football Association. And the winner is Kerry Bowen of the Scarborough Boys Football League. In the 16 and under age category, the runner-up is Jason Kerr of the Brantford Youth Football Association. And the winner is Marvin Mooring of the Thunder Bay Minor Football Association. The Ontario Amateur Football Association would like to thank the Ford Motor Company of Canada for its continued support of the Ontario Punt, Pass, and Kick program. They also wish to thank the thousands of Ontario youths who have taken part in the program. Please give the 1986 Ford Punt, Pass, and Kick finalists and champions a warm round of applause.
And all the winners today came from regions all over Ontario. The province broken up into 5 geographic regions, and all these kids who were winners today were also winners in their own high school districts, also minor touch and flag football leagues. Now let's go back upstairs to start the second half.
Zen and Andrew Sessions' kickoff will be handled by William Miller, who kicks it around, picks it up at the 14, and then dances his way out over the 25 to the 26. Well, there's no question about it that the Argonauts really miss Willie Thomas, their offensive center, because with Thomas out of the lineup, they've had to go to Dan Peshnig to replace him at center. And then, as Leaf pointed out at the top of the ball game, Jim Kardash comes in to play right guard, and Kardash is a tight end.
Well, he was a tight end at the University of Western Ontario, and of course, one of the best ways to make it in the Canadian Football League as a Canadian is to play an offensive lineman. He's beefed himself up to 250 pounds, so he's certainly got the size to play it.
Tim Cowan's pass is complete to Chris Woods. And Woods gets the first down as he is out very close to the 39-yard line.
Well, the key, as we talked about earlier, on this quick screen to the wide receivers is to get the initial block and get it quickly. Number 37, Warren Hudson, the fullback, gets out. He puts the block on Terry Irvin, and that allows Chris Woods to use that good speed. And right off the bat, they start with a first down.
David Martin, who plays in that secondary for the Montreal Alouettes, was having words with Dan Ferroni, number 69. That would kind of be a mismatch, I suspect, because one weighs 185 pounds, the other one 255. Cowan's pass is complete to William Miller, and Cowan is in there in place of the injured J.C. Watts as Brett Williams makes the stop on the Toronto running back.
William Miller, used primarily as a pass receiver today, just gets a little block on Rayford Cooks to slow him down a touch in the screen play, but once again, it's the toaster, Brett Williams, who makes the play. He had himself a super first half with 3 sacks.
It's second down, a couple of yards to go for the first down from the Toronto 47-yard line. The give is to William Miller, and he niftily picks his way for a first down over the 50 to about the 53. Sandy Armstrong, number 81, the defensive tackle, along with Will Coakley, number 53, the middle linebacker, are there to make the stop.
Well, you see William Miller give big Chris Siltz a little pat on the behind because he did a nice job blocking on Glenn Coakley to open up that hole. Chris Schultz, of course, the much heralded offensive tackle who played 3 years with the Dallas Cowboys, 6'9", 275. No question about his physical attributes to play this game.
Chris from Burlington, Ontario, went to the University of Arizona. Cowan again setting up the screen, but he threw the ball high. He threw it hard, and William Miller consequently didn't make the catch.
Boy, that brings to mind the story you love to tell about Russ Jackson throwing those flare passes to Bo Scott. They were like arrows going through his hands, and Tim Cowan certainly didn't try to feather that one into William Miller.
Russ was a sensational quarterback. Bo Scott was so happy to get to Cleveland. He had bruise marks all over his chest from catching javelin throws from Russ Jackson. 2nd and 10 for the Argos at their 53. And Cowan under pressure throws. Joyner was not able to make the catch, and he's complaining because he feels that Steve Benjamin had an arm on him, and I don't think there's any doubt that he did.
I think he has a legitimate complaint, but once again, it's really the pressure that doesn't allow this pass play to be completed. Steve Benjamin, well, no, really, you know, you get a good look on that replay, and I don't think he did touch him. That was perfect position for the referee to make the call. He didn't have to make it, of course, because there wasn't interference, but it was the pressure on Tim Cowan that really broke that pass pattern up.
So the Argos are stalled, and Hank Olisic is forced to punt. And he sends a beauty. David Martin is inside his 5-yard line. Does a good job, just steps over an arm tackle and gets out over the 20 to the 21-yard line. So the Alouettes are going to have the ball in precarious field position, but they have the lead 14-6, and we'll see how they make out when we come back in a moment. Argos cannot be pleased. They know that they control their own destiny. Tim Cowan talking things over with a member of his offensive line, Calvin Prinster, his right tackle. And I guess they're trying to get the blocking arrangements sorted out so that Cowan doesn't end up on his head. Ransom with a little play action fake fires, and there to make the catch is Chapdelaine at the 38-yard line. It'll be a first down. Paul Tripoli was there to force him out.
Boy, that was a nice catch by Jock Chapdelaine. He's been in the league for 4 years. Originally played with BC Lions, then came back to the Montreal Alouettes from Simon Fraser University. Got off to a great start this year in 1986, then kind of seemed to fizzle out through halfway through the year, and now he's back getting his reception totals up once again. Coming into this game, had 43.
Sean Faulkner, the ball carrier, gets it out over the 40 to the 41. So he'll have a pickup of a couple and bring up a 2nd and 8 for the Alouettes, who get their hands on the football for the first time in this second half. They were not outstanding, but they were certainly consistent in the first half, ran the ball well. Good controlled passing game, and as a result, they enjoy an 8-point lead, 14-6, as we get play underway here in the third quarter. Penalty marker is first down. It came down extremely late as Brian Ransom got to the 50-yard line, which would be a first down. Lloyd Fairbanks did move, but the flag didn't come down until about 10 seconds after he had done so. It's a procedure call against the Alouettes.
Well, I think you caught it perfectly, Pat. And what they'll do now before Toronto decides whether or not to accept the penalty will be to measure to see if it is, if not a first down. If it is, they'll take the penalty. I think even if it's really close, they'll take the penalty because I'm sure they'll gamble.
It is a first down, so there is no question about what they're going to do.
What are they bringing it up for? I have no idea why they even bother. What's the flag for?
Boy, somebody's got the good lungs today. You can hear them all the way up here.
The flag is for a procedure penalty against Lloyd Fairbanks.
Procedure. Montreal number 66. Still second down.
66 is Fairbanks. Well, the Argos seem to be a little more fired up than they were in that first half. Alouettes with a 2nd and 12. Ransom's arm was hit just as he released the ball, and it is picked off by David Marshall, the middle linebacker. Well, it's very difficult to criticize Brian Ransom because Rodney Harding was there to hit his arm just as he released the football. It floated up in the air, and David Marshall was there to make the interception.
Yeah, really a good interception by David Marshall. He takes it at its highest point. That's what they're taught to do. His 2nd of the year. His first one came in their big win earlier this year out in Edmonton, and of course that gave them the touchdown to win the game for them, but nice play by David Marshall.
Argos have the ball inside the Montreal 45-yard line. Cowan again setting up that screen to William Miller, and Miller could not get to the outside. He thought it was going to open up for him, but then David Martin just moved in, cut him down after a pickup of maybe 4 yards.
David Martin was originally a 9th-round draft choice of the Detroit Lions, and we want to talk about him today because he was with Marv Levy in Kansas City in 1982 when Marv Levy was the head coach, and of course Marv Levy now with the Montreal Alouette organization brought David Martin here to Montreal.
2nd and 6 Argonauts with Tim Cowan, the ex-BC Lion, in there. His pass is caught by Joe Phillips, but then he coughed up the football after a great hit by Will Coakley, the middle linebacker.
Boy, that was a great hit because Joe Phillips had made the catch, and a nice catch, and boy, he was just rocked by that middle linebacker, Will Coakley, number 53. Watch the hit right here. Ooh. It's lucky he kept the helmet on. And loosen your teeth on those ones.
So Lance Chomick is in to try a 47-yard field goal attempt.
You know, those are the little things on defense that won't show up in the stats, but really make the difference.
The field goal will go for a single point. Rick Ryan just runs it out of the end zone. So Chomick misses. The Argos get a point and have drawn to within a converted touchdown. It is Montreal 14, Toronto 7. We'll be back in a moment. Chomick was really incensed. He feels that the field goal was good. It is being counted only as a single point. Chomick fired his helmet as he came off the field, kicked it a little ways.
That kick was good.
Yeah, that kick was good. Let's take a look at this one. Boy, from that angle, it looked like it was inside the post all right. Good for 3 points. But unfortunately, Lance Chomick is not the referee in this ball game. Bud Ulrich is.
Well, he really got jobbed there because there was no question about the length. Definitely had the length, and it was inside the post.
I don't understand how you can miss a field goal call like that when you're standing 2 men on the goal line.
I find that very disturbing because these guys are trying hard. You know, first place is on the line for them if they can win back-to-back games here. And boy, to get jobbed out of 3 points isn't fair.
The pass intended for James Hood is no good. Tell you what's interesting, on the scoreboard, they have given Toronto 3 points. So, Dan, you've got to check that out for us. There was definitely a signal from the officials that the kick was wide. But on the scoreboard right now, they have credited Toronto with 3 points. Dan? It's a mistake on the scoreboard, and they have now changed it to 14-7. So it goes as a single point. Zenon Andrusic's punt on 3rd down is handled by Carl Braisley, who gets to the outside. Braisley is forced out at the 53-yard line by Wayne Cadigan. There was absolutely no coverage by that Montreal punt team on that side of the field. Braisley spotted it and got to the outside.
Well, the outside contain man, who was Wayne Cadigan, number 24, just let Braisley get to the outside.
28 yards, the punt by Zenon Andrusic, and a 16-yard return by Carl Braisley. So the Argos begin trailing by 7 points from their 53-yard line. Tim Cowan fires deep. Boy, what a job Steve Benjamin did to react to that football. First of all, he got completely turned around, didn't know where it is, just roared back, had all jets going, and then when he finally did spot the ball, he knocked it out.
Boy, I couldn't agree with you more. And had Tim Cowan maybe seen Kenny Joyner a little sooner, he could have got more mustard on the football. But, boy, you're right, Pat. That was just a super outstanding defensive play.
Steve Benjamin has played well on the corner for Montreal virtually all of this year. He only has 2 interceptions, but that proves that they have decided not to throw much his way. However, the Argos are saying they don't care about his stats because Cowan comes back and hits Ken Joyner for a first down at the 45-yard line right in front of Steve Benjamin.
Kenny Joyner had his best game as an Argo 2 weeks ago in their big win over the Ottawa Rough Riders, where he caught 8 passes and a couple of touchdowns. That time just a simple turnout. Steve Benjamin back in a deep zone coverage, so he's only concerned about that deep area, so all he has to do is come up and make the play after Joyner catches it.
7:20 left to play in this 3rd quarter. Montreal leading Toronto 14-7. Tim Cowan's pass is picked off by Terry Irvin. That's his 2nd interception of the ball game, his 60th of his outstanding CFL career.
Well, T.I., as they refer to him, Terry Irvin, has been around for 10 years from Jackson State, played with the Calgary Stampeders, the Saskatchewan Rough Riders, and now the Montreal Alouettes. And Chris Woods wasn't even looking for that football. It kind of looked like a lame duck that Tim Cowan was putting into an area and hoped that Woods would get to, but really miscommunication right there, and Terry Irvin is the lucky recipient of it.
So the Alouettes take over at their 26-yard line. Give us to Sean Faulkner. Penalty marker comes down as Faulkner fights his way over the 30 to about the 32-yard line. Gary Moten and Gerald Bayless in there on the stop. But we've got a holding penalty against the Alouettes, so they'll bring it back.
I saw a shot of Terry Irvin on the bench. You know, when I played, I always found him to be one of the more aggressive corners in the league, and I always like to try and intimidate the receivers both verbally and physically.
Holding, Montreal number 5'8", still first down.
That's the center, Glenn Keeble, number 58. So the ball is back to the 16, where it'll be 1st and 20. On the draw, this is Tony Johns, and Johns fights his way to about the 19-yard line. Well, that Argo defense seems a little more fired up right now as Moten and Marshall once again combine on the tackle.
Well, guys like Marlon Jones, number 90, Rodney Harding, 77, Gerald Bayless, 99. They're all physical kind of guys. They like to really get in and mix it up. We saw evidence of that last week. They were fighting all game long with the Hamilton offensive line.
Ransom looks, goes deep. There's nobody there. One of the receivers fell down as he got to the 40-yard line and is slow getting to his feet. That's Gil Stiegel, number 85.
Gentlemen, a footnote on Tony Johns. He's in the ball game right now because the Alouettes' humongous blocking back, Ira Albright, has a bad left ankle. He twisted it, had it heavily taped at halftime. He's still trying to walk it off. They don't know if he'll be back in this game at all.
If I was Ira at 250, I wouldn't try and walk it off.
The punt by Andrew Sisson is handled by Chris Woods at his 48. And he gets to the 50 and no further. So the Argos are going to take over in good field position, but they trail Montreal 14-7. We'll be back in a moment. Just a couple of weeks' time, the playoffs begin, and we'll have the Eastern Final for you on Sunday, November the 16th. It will be played either here in Toronto or in Hamilton. And then we'll have the second game of the Western Final, Sunday, November the 23rd. Who that will be, no one can predict, but we can predict this. For all the Grey Cup festivities and activities, you'll see them here on CTV. We'll have the Grey Cup replay for you. Last year's outstanding game between Hamilton and BC, the 86 Grey Cup parade, and all the goodies that go with making Grey Cup the most fun week in Canadian history. Tim Cowan's screen pass is set up for William Miller. And Miller only manages to get, well, back to the original line of scrimmage.
Now, I know it's a fun week, but in history?
Well, certainly in the history of 1986, it'll be the most fun week.
Let's have a look at Brett Williams, the toaster. Defensive lineman, oh gosh, one of the picks that I would think would have to be up there for the Eastern Defensive Channeling.
Cowan's pass, good catch by Ken Joyner at the Montreal 45-yard line. He caught it in front of Steve Benjamin. Nothing anybody could do about that because it was simply an outstanding effort by Joyner.
Well, Steve Benjamin kind of shrugged his shoulders to the coach on the sidelines and said, you know, if they're going to make a quick break like that and throw it before he even breaks, I can't stop that, and he can. That was a super catch by Kenny Joyner.
Joyner in and out of the lineup all afternoon, all season long, through injuries and everything else. Came in with 37 receptions into this afternoon's ball game. Cowan going deep for Chris Woods, simply out front for the ball by Terry Irvin, who is having just a sensational game. That's his third interception of the day, his 61st of his career. Terry Irvin simply went to the football.
You talk about being cagey. He's got Chris Woods man-to-man, and he simply just times it perfectly. Now, let's face it, that was not a great throw by any stretch either. But he's got his third interception, and when you look at the Carling O'Keefe offensive and defensive game stars, old T.I. will be at the top of the list along with the toaster.
And Irvin shaken up on the play down at the 25-yard line.
Well, he's sure adding to his totals. Now 11 interceptions in 1986. Originally started with the Calgary Stampeders, went to Saskatchewan, and now with the Montreal Alouettes.
Who will be in the Vanier Cup? A lot of people are suggesting it could be the University of British Columbia against the University of Western Ontario Mustangs. Alex Ponton and Bobby Layden, who work on our broadcast crew, are hoping that it's Bishop's University. And Bruce Coulter's done a great job down there. And the Carleton Ravens are still alive. They had success against Bishop. They hammered them this year. So, I mean, it could be anybody.
Well, regardless of who it is, I can tell you one thing. It'll be a great game. It always is. And the nice thing, it's at Varsity Stadium, which is one of the nicest stadiums in Canada for us to broadcast a game, and a very intimate park for the fans to go and enjoy all the action.
Well, they're taking their time in getting Terry Irvin to his feet.
That looks like maybe he jammed his neck when he was tackled after making his interception. Well, we'll have a look at it. And to see it's number 63, the right guard, Jim Kardash, that first makes contact with him.
But Irvin is up and walking off under his own steam now, which is good to see. The Alouettes will take over at their 25-yard line with 4:32 left to play in this third quarter, and Montreal clinging to a 14-7 lead.
Well, you see that graphic there, and believe me, that's a long time for a cornerback in any league. 10 years, and he's really lasted. He's been a great one.
Ransom looks, fires to Gerald Alpha, and he isn't able to hang on. A penalty marker is down. Holding against Montreal. There hasn't been a whole lot of flow to this game, has there?
No, it's been very difficult. Of course, you know, the surprising thing that we felt like Toronto has been so flat in a game of such big importance for them. They still only trail by 7 points, so every chance to still win this game.
Could we be looking at back-to-back overtimes?
I hope not. To be totally honest about it.
Holding, Montreal number 65, first down over.
I'll be the first one to say that it's a great new dimension to the Canadian Football League, but I'd just as soon not do it.
Mike Palumbo, the right guard, was called for holding. So it's 1st and 20, Montreal back at their 15. Pass is complete to Tony Johns, and Johns just battles his way to about the 32-yard line. So a big 17-yard effort on the pass reception by Tony Johns will put Montreal in a 2nd and 3 situation.
Oh, that's great. 1st and 20, you know, that's a tough spot to be in, and even tougher when you're backed up deep in your own territory, but nothing fancy about this. Just a great effort by Tony Johns. Good move on Carl Brazeley, and then he just drags Paul Tripoli with him, and boy, to get 17 yards when 1st and 20 is just a great play.
So it's 2nd down and 3 at the 32. The give is to Johns, and he has the 1st down as he crosses the 35. So Tony Johns looked after that 20 yards nicely for the Montreal Alouettes.
Pat and Leif would be glad to know Terry Irvin's all right, too. He's just saying he got lucky in that last play and was only hit in the head. Rang his bell a bit. He thinks he's going back in the next series.
Well, that is good news, Dan, because he has been so outstanding in this game and throughout his career. On 1st down, they give the ball to Sean Faulkner, and Faulkner may be awarded the 40-yard line, which would be a pickup of about 3 yards. Pretty good afternoon for Sean Faulkner, as you can see, averaging 5 yards a carry.
I believe a few weeks ago against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, when they were at the Big O in Montreal, he was well over 100 yards in that game.
Ransom looks, and the pass intended for Faulkner goes incomplete. Carl Brazeley on the play covering for Toronto.
Brian Ransom made the right read once again. Toronto coming with the safety blitz. Paul Tripoli coming in, and of course you've got to hit somebody quickly. He threw a good strike to Sean Faulkner, but he couldn't hang on. Well, there's a game breaker on your screen right there. Chris Woods, very dangerous punt return, has not been able to break anything this afternoon, however.
Andrew Sisson hangs it high. Carl Brazeley was trying to chase it down and does at the 28-yard line, and then just falls forward to about the 33. So we've got 2 minutes and 10 seconds left to play in this 3rd quarter as you take a look at what's on tap next Saturday on CTV's Wide World of Sports. The Rothmans Porsche sports car race, the Miami Indy Challenge, and that's the final Indy car race of the season. And the greatest gift of them all, America's Cup Report. What a battle that is down in Australia. If Alfred Hitchcock was here, he'd have a field day this afternoon. There are more birds flying around here than you'd see in a zoo. Tim Cowan's pass is caught by Warren Hudson up at the 42-yard line. Gives you an idea of the kind of game it is when you end up paying more attention to the birds than anything else. Has not been a great one by any means, but the Argos are still in it, trailing by just 7.
I do believe that's J.C. Watts warming up on the sideline. Obviously, his left thumb that you can see a bandage on is probably not too bad. He could come back in if they feel like they need him.
Leif, the word in the thumb is just a bad bruise.
It's 2nd down, a yard to go after the catch by Hudson. And the Argos should have the 1st down. William Miller, the ball carrier, was very close to that marker, and they do, in fact, move the chains. Alouettes haven't been able to move the ball as effectively in this third quarter as they did in the first half. Nevertheless, they still lead it by 7. The Argos trying to fight back. A win today and a win next week against these same Alouettes in Montreal would give them first place. Tim Cowan is sacked by Rayford Cooks, who just motored in there from his defensive end spot. Number 69 got the hand up around the head area, and Cowan went down.
Well, the Montreal Alouettes have really taken a lot of refugees from the United States Football League. Rayford Cooks, of course, is one of them. Played with Memphis last year, and that's his 3rd sack since joining the Montreal Alouettes. And you see right there, that's one of the big stories of today, is that front 4 of the Alouettes and their domination of that Toronto offensive line.
And conversely, no domination by the Toronto defensive line of the Alouettes offense. Cowan's pass right into the hands of Terry Irvin, his 4th interception of the ball game. Well, we'll have to start looking for the record. Can't believe that anybody could have had many more than 4. I know that in the first game that we did this season, Chris Ziegler of the Ottawa Rough Riders had 4.
Well, it's really hard to understand where Tim Cowan is going with this pass. He's probably had a chance to work all week, knowing that he probably would get a chance to play. It's intended for Paul Pearson. There's no way they're going to get it into him. They play a 4-deep zone. You can't beat a 4-deep zone deep. You have to go underneath it. Obviously, the Toronto quarterbacks are just not reading things properly.
This game may end early if they allow Terry Irvin to keep all the balls after his interceptions, because he's had 4 of them right now. Ransom gets down as he gets to the 32-yard line for a pickup of about 5 yards.
Well, you know, it's interesting talking about Terry Irvin. We mentioned that he now has moved into 2nd place on the all-time list. He came into this game 58. He now has 62. He's only 4 behind Larry Ibaugh.
So that's the final play of the third quarter, with the Montreal Alouettes out in front of the Toronto Argonauts 14-7. We'll return with the fourth quarter in a moment. So as we begin the fourth quarter of play, the Alouettes out in front by 7 points. They have a 2nd and 5. Brian Ransom looks downfield. And a good defensive play by Carl Brazeley breaks up the pass. It was intended for Jacques Chapdelaine.
I tell you, a lot of times today, the quarterbacks have really made those defensive backs look good, because the ball was just late getting there, and all Carl Brazeley had to do was stick the hand around, knock it down. Of course, they made Terry Irvin into an instant all-star with his day.
Well, the Argos are very much in this ball game, trailing by just 7 points. Zinn and Andrew Sishin punts. Carl Brazeley takes it on the dead run and gets down to the Montreal 44-yard line. Tony Johns was there to make the tackle, but a good return by Carl Brazeley, who knew what Andrew Sishin was trying to do, kick it away from him. He moved over, made the catch, and then sidestepped a couple of would-be tacklers and gives Toronto possession in Montreal territory. As you take a look at the first half statistical story, we'll tell you that J.C. Watts is back in at quarterback and immediately goes to the shotgun formation. And immediately tries to scramble, but cannot get away from Mark Hopkins, the linebacker, number 77. And J.C. will actually end up losing a couple of yards.
Well, Mark Hopkins in his 4th year, a graduate of York University here in Toronto, and he's played a number of positions with the Alouettes. In fact, last year, I remember him starting a game for the Alouettes here in Toronto as their starting fullback. He's also been a defensive lineman this game, as a matter of fact, playing that outside linebacking spot.
Well, Ken Joyner again comes up with a big play, and they will rule that he made the catch at the 40, but it's far too little. He'll pick up about 5 yards, but it brings up a 3rd and 5. So Lance Chomick, who feels that he was jobbed on his last field goal attempt, and from what we saw in the replay, it certainly appeared that he was, when he was awarded a single point on a kick that appeared to be good. will try this one from the 47-yard line with J.C. Watts to hold. Now, Watts has injured his left thumb, as you heard earlier, but he gets the ball down. Chomik puts it up, and this time it's short and wide. And the Alouettes concede the single point. David Martin very nearly turned that into a real fiasco. Nevertheless, it is only a single, and Montreal continues to lead it 14-8. We'll be back in just a moment. 25-year figure skating tradition with the exclusive coverage of Skate Canada up next at 4:30 this afternoon. Some of the greatest skaters in the entire world performing out in Saskatchewan. Well, Terry Irvin has tied the CFL record for the most interceptions in one game with 4. As Brian Ransom sets up the screen, but Sean Faulkner was not able to get away from anyone and ends up losing about 5 yards.
Well, the Argonauts really have done a pretty good job for all intents and purposes this afternoon defensively, and that time read the screen perfectly. Watch Sean Faulkner. He tries to slip out now and pick up some blocking, but Don Moen, number 36, he's there. He reads it initially, turns it back to the inside, and can get some help.
So it makes it 2nd and 15. Ransom looking for Stiegel. He did a double bounce on that one, went up, then wanted to go up again. But there was no chance for the reception. The ball sailed over his head. So the Argos now just 6 points behind Montreal. Should end up with pretty good field position here. Zenon Andrusishin has not had a great day punting the football. As you take a look at Chris Woods back at his 30. And again, Carl Brazeley handles it at the 34-yard line. And he's dropped as he gets to about the 37 by Glenn Kolka. The Ottawa Rough Riders and the Hamilton Ticats will wrap up their regular season schedule Friday night, and we'll be there to bring you the action as the Rough Riders really played well yesterday and playing to that 16-16 overtime tie. Then on Saturday, you'll see a great matchup. Winnipeg playing in British Columbia, and then we'll be in Edmonton to bring you the wind-up game of the CFL schedule next Sunday afternoon. J.C. Watts was able to buy some time, and they ruled no catch as Joe Phillips went down to try to dig it out of the turf. But it simply goes as an incompletion.
But once again, the story is the pressure. Look at J.C. I mean, he's just fighting for his life back there to try and get that pass away. Mark Hopkins, Brett Williams, they're all in his face. I mean, it makes it extremely difficult for a quarterback when you know pretty near every play you're going to get sandbagged when you go to throw.
You know, let's face it, the Alouettes really deserve a lot of credit. They're going nowhere this year. And here the Argos with everything to gain, first place on the line, and Montreal really playing well. As J.C. Watts is dragged down by Rayford Cooks, number 69.
Well, Rayford Cooks just did an excellent job, and of course that won't go as a sack as J.C. Watts had crossed the line of scrimmage, but he did a good job pursuing. Once again, they get good pressure right up the middle, flush J.C. Watts out of the pocket, and then at 69, Rayford Cooks that finally makes the play.
The toaster, Brett Williams, was very upset coming off the field. I think he thinks they should have sacked the Toronto quarterback again. But they stopped him well short of the first down, and Hank Olisic is punting again. He drives this one to David Martin. And Martin is out over the 30 to about the 32, where Gary Moten brings him down with 10:19 left to play in the fourth quarter. And the Alouettes hanging on to a 14-8 lead. We'll be back in just a moment. only 8 points this afternoon, but they're still very much alive as Walter Lewis comes into quarterback the Montreal Alouettes. Ransom has not been able to move the club at all here in the second half, so Lewis takes over with 10:15 left to play in the ball game. And hands the ball off to Sean Faulkner, and the workhorse of that Montreal offensive unit picks up maybe a couple of yards. Gary Moten, who has been active for the Argos at that linebacking position, and Rodney Harding, 72 and 77 combined on the stop.
Well, Walter Lewis, a good scheme for him would be to go to that rollout action, because we know what a good runner he is. Of course, originally from the University of Alabama, played in the United States Football League.
He's under pressure, but is able to get away. It was Rodney Harding who had him wrapped up. Lewis shook him off and has the first down for the Alouettes to the 45-yard line. Well, that was a great individual effort by Walter Lewis, the scrambling quarterback from the University of Alabama, who was sought by the Alouettes when he came out of university. They didn't know whether they should get him or Turner Gill. They pursued them both, and they ended up getting Turner Gill. But ultimately, Lewis ends up back there.
Yeah, and he makes a nice run here because he knows he has to take on that tackler to get those extra few yards to pick up the first down. Of course, that was 72 Gary Moten, who he came in contact with.
12 yards to pick up first down Montreal at their 45. And on the quarterback draw, Lewis takes it himself, gets another first down, and fumbles the football at the Toronto 51-yard line. Well, let's take a look at this one, because it was a good effort again by Lewis, except that he forgot to hang on to the ball at the end.
Yeah, it sure was. Quarterback draw, and as he goes down, Paul Tripoli makes the tackle. The ball comes loose, and I believe it's number 90, Marlon Jones, that makes the fumble recovery.
The Alouettes are upset about that. Glenn Keeble rushing over now to talk to referee Bud Ulrich, trying to imply that it should not have been ruled a fumble, but indeed it was. And the Alouettes will have to hang tough as they lead the Argos 14-8. We'll be back with Toronto's first down in a moment. Carl Brazeley was shaken up on that fumble by Walter Lewis, trying to walk it off right now. Boy, he would be a terrible loss for the Argos. But Toronto alive at 14-8. They trail, but they have possession at their 52-yard line with 8 minutes and 37 seconds left to play in the fourth quarter. Carl Brazeley has played with Ottawa, played with Toronto, and played well wherever he's been.
Well, in fact, he originally came into the league with the Montreal Alouettes, or the Montreal Concord, I guess they were then.
J.C. Watt's pass is caught by Chris Woods. And Woods ducks underneath the tackle to pick up a Toronto first down in Montreal territory at the 43-yard line.
Well, once again, it was the key block of 37 Warren Hudson that makes this play work. Watch how he gets out and takes the... In fact, he gets 2 of them. First block he makes is on David Martin. And Chris Woods, of course, with his great speed, he knows what to do with the football.
Argos have the ball in Montreal territory. They have not scored a touchdown this afternoon. J.C. Watts throws. Ken Joyner makes the catch and gets to the 40 for a pickup of just 3, as Steve Benjamin was on him right away.
Well, the throw has to be perfect on that quick screen to the wide receivers, and if it's a little behind them, it really messes up the timing. That time, the throw wasn't good, and so the play doesn't gain much yardage.
Matter of fact, they spotted at the 41, which is a pickup of just a couple. So it's 2nd and 8, Toronto. Again, the screen is set up, this time for William Miller. And Miller fights his way to the 35, which will leave the Argos a full 2 yards short of that first down marker. Brett Williams made the tackle.
Well, this will be an interesting decision for Bob Obilovich. You know, they trail by 6 points, and of course that's just a couple of field goals. I do believe, however, that they're going to gamble and go for it on 3rd down. That's a good 2. That's a long 2. In fact, that's about 2.5 yards.
Ken Chanconi is in there as an extra linebacker right now. 2nd and 2. And the toss goes to William Miller. And Miller has the 1st down. He fell beyond the marker. So the Argo drive will continue. They gamble on 3rd and a solid 2 yards and make it.
Well, David Daniels, number 23, will have an opportunity right at the end there, but he just can't get enough of a good, solid stopping hit on William Miller to keep him from picking up that 1st down. What a big play that is.
And we've complimented the Montreal defensive front line today. They made 0 penetration on that play, and Miller was able then to get to the corner and pick up the necessary couple of yards. So it's 1st down, Toronto. The ball outside the Montreal 31-yard line. Well, Watts will indicate that he was throwing it to Joe Phillips. Glenn Kolka was getting ready to drop in for a big loss. And we'll see if intentional grounding is called. It is not.
Well, it's the initial pressure of Glenn Kolka quickly. I mean, J.C. Watts has no chance, and the ball lands near offensive right guard Jim Kardash. But Joe Phillips, I think, was close enough in the area not to warrant a flag.
So with 5.5 minutes left to play in the 4th quarter, Toronto has a 2nd and 10 at the Montreal 31. Quickly, the little it's supposed to be a little look in to Joe Phillips. There was one problem. He forgot to look. Consequently, the ball hit him in the head.
You know, if you're anticipating a blitz on 2nd and 10, but this is a great call. It's a great play. Hit that slot back quickly. The only trouble is Joe Phillips is a newcomer to that offensive scheme, and he just didn't look for the football. It's going to come right at you here, and old Joe gets reminded he should have turned because he hit him in the head with it.
So now we see Lance Chomick, and it will now be a 38-yard field goal try with 5:10 left to play in the ball game. It is good. The Argos draw to within 3 points. And Chomick runs downfield to berate the official, indicating, well, that's good. You didn't miss that one. But I don't know how wise a move that is. I don't like his chances of getting the next one if it's close.
Yeah. Well, they accomplished something out of that. The Walter Lewis fumble. Marlon Jones recovered it. The Argonaut offense was able to take it down. They picked up a 1st down on a 3rd down gamble. We're stalled, but Lance Chomick salvages something with that field goal to his, and they've cut the Montreal lead now to 3 points.
With all kinds of time left, 5 minutes and 4 seconds left to play in this 4th quarter. We might well be headed to overtime once again. Lance has had a terrific year. As a matter of fact, I don't mind saying that he received my vote as the outstanding player in the Argonauts because he was certainly consistent from beginning to end.
Good job.
Boy, that was a fortunate break the way that ball bounced back into the hands of Jeff Treflin after he had fumbled it. He gets it out to the 35-yard line. So now let's see who comes out to quarterback. The Montreal Alouettes. It'll be Walter Lewis, who ran well when he came in there on the previous series, but unfortunately he fumbled, and that enabled Toronto to take over and go in for the field goal. If the Argos win today and then go into Montreal and win, they have wrapped up 1st place. If they do not win today, they are in danger of finishing the season in 2nd spot because they trail Hamilton right now by a single point. Sean Faulkner, the ball carrier, and he runs into Don Moen after a pickup of a couple of yards.
Well, of course, this is the time of the game, too, when you want to be able to go to your running game and not only take some time off the clock, but pick up a couple of 1st downs. And Of course, on the other side of the coin, Toronto Argonauts really want to stuff them down and get that ball back. There you see the standings, and Toronto Argonauts have the luxury of controlling their own destiny. If they win these back-to-back games with Montreal, there's nothing the Ticats can do. Toronto will finish in first place.
But there isn't a doubt in my mind that the best team in the Eastern Conference right now is the Hamilton Ticats.
I agree.
But we will find out in the two-game total point final as Walter Lewis runs for a first down as he scrambles his way to the 49-yard line. David Marshall forced him out there, but it's a big 11-yard pickup for the running quarterback from the University of Alabama, Walter Lewis.
Well, that's the luxury of having a quarterback that's fleet of foot, because Gerald Alphen was open downfield, but Walter Lewis, rather than try and throw it into him, maybe he'd drop it or maybe he'd catch it, who knows, but he knew he could pick up the first down. I think he made a smart play.
Hard to understand. We've got fans leaving the ballpark right now with Montreal only ahead by 3 points and 3 minutes and 40 seconds left to play in the fourth. Walter Lewis looks down the middle and finds his receiver at the 52-yard line. It was Jacques Chapdelaine with his 6th reception of the afternoon.
Yeah, he did a good job. Just got in between middle linebacker David Marshall and Don Moen and stayed right in the area until Walter Lewis could find him, made a good catch.
And picks up 9 yards.
In fact, I think he's had a pretty good afternoon this afternoon. He's caught about 6 passes. There you see it. Not a great deal of yardage, but Montreal's really kind of done with the ball control passing game today, not trying to hit the big one.
2nd and a yard to go. And they give it to Sean Faulkner, who was hit by number 99, Gerald Bayless. He was hit in the backfield and denied the first down. Now we've got penalty markers down, and we also have a timeout. So when we come back, we'll sort out the penalty marker for you. It is Montreal 14, Toronto 11. We'll be back for the final 3 minutes in a moment.
Foul, unnecessary roughness, 73 Toronto.
73 is the middle linebacker, David Marshall, and that is a major, major penalty because it gives Montreal a first down at the Toronto 37-yard line with the clock now moving and 2:55 left to play in the fourth quarter. Montreal leading by 3 points. Lewis throws the passes complete to Jacques Chapdelaine, who stepped out at the Toronto 18-yard line. It's another Montreal first down.
Oh, did Walter Lewis ever take a hit when he released that football? 73, David Marshall's coming. He absolutely drills him. But Lewis hangs in, steps up, and throws to Jacques Chapdelaine, who makes a big catch. Here's the hit. Ooh, got that shoulder right in there. You could hear that pop. I guess they both hit shoulder pass because you could hear it all the way up here.
20 yards the pickup by Jacques Chapdelaine, and it is first down Montreal at the Toronto 17.5-yard line. They give to Tony Johns. He's pulled down by Gerald Bayless, the defensive tackle, number 99. Tony Johns. And his pickup will be a couple of yards. Clock is down to 2 minutes and 36 seconds left to play. And Alouettes, of course, content to run the football. They don't need any more points. The Argonauts do, because Montreal is out in front by 3. They'd love to stick this in the end zone if they could, though. And you've got to know that the Hamilton Ticats will be delighted if Montreal hangs on. The penalty marker is down as Lewis fires complete for the touchdown. Gerald Alphen has his 2nd major score of the afternoon, but there is a penalty marker on the field. It's against Toronto. The touchdown stands. Gerald Alphen has his 2nd major of the afternoon.
What a big play that was, and you know, the roughing penalty by David Marshall really costs.
Toronto on the defense. Declined. Touchdown stands.
Really cost the Argonauts. There was a big 15 yards they picked up, and then, of course, a pass to Jacques Chapdelaine, and now a super throw to Gerald Alphen. He's able to fight off the tackle of Paul Tripoli, get into the end zone, and, boy, I think that might just do it. And, boy, I'm impressed with Walter Lewis on that drive. He really threw the ball well.
You know, running both ways. He ran to his left on occasion and was able to throw the ball, and it's a little easier for him running to his right, and he put it right on the money to Gerald Alphen, and the Kansas State grad was there to make his 2nd touchdown reception of the afternoon. and his first 2 touchdowns ever in CFL play. And the Alouettes go up by 10, and it appears to be lights out for the Argos in a game that they had to win if they really wanted to finish first. Mind you, there's no cinch in Hamilton next week when we'll be there to watch the Ottawa Rough Riders play the Ticats. But with this Toronto loss this afternoon, unless a miracle happens in the next 2:09, the Ticats will be in a position to clinch first place at home next Friday.
Well, there's a good look at Gerald Elfin. That was his 6th catch of the afternoon, 71 yards, a couple of touchdowns. Of course, Walter Lewis, since he's come into the game, 3 of 3 passing. And, you know, for a team that's out of it, you have to appreciate the enthusiasm that the Montreal Alouettes have shown this afternoon. Defensively, they have certainly played well. And although the totals on offense are not that fantastic, they've done a pretty competent job when they've had to.
Well, let's think about Walter Lewis. He threw the ball 3 times, completed it 3 times for 42 yards. He ran the ball 3 times for a total of 36, an average of 12 yards a carry. So what a job he did in coming in to pick up this Montreal offense in relief of Brian Ransom. So Zenon Andrusession is set to kick it deep. And he does, to the newcomer Joe Phillips at his 12-yard line. And Phillips battles his way out to the 38-yard line, and that's where Toronto will begin. Sandy Armstrong and Mark Hopkins were there to bring him down. Immediately following our telecast this afternoon, we'll go to Saskatchewan for the 1986 version of Skate Canada, with the best figure skating that you'll see in many, many moons coming your way from Saskatchewan. Well, as I mentioned just a few seconds ago, we'll be in Hamilton to bring you that Ottawa Rough Rider Hamilton Ticat game. William Miller on the screen gets out over the 40 to the 42-yard line. It's only a pickup of about 3, as Dave Daniels, number 23, and Mark Hopkins, 77, combined to bring him down. J.C. Watts looks, throws, and they rule that it is a good catch at the 52-yard line for a first down by Ken Joyner.
Of course, trailing by 10 points now, the Argonauts have to get something going. They've got to get a deep downfield. Kenny Joyner makes the catch right along the sidelines there. The officials, of course, ruled that he was in bounds. Stops the clock. That's even better.
J.C. Watts gets all caught up in the traffic, and finally the toaster is there. Brett Williams to record his 4th sack of the afternoon.
Well, the toaster gets the sack, but boy, you got to thank all the other guys on that line, because Rayford Cooks and Will Coakley, everybody was there putting good pressure on J.C. Watts. You know, I think it gets him off to a bad start when he has to make that great catch, just taking the snap from center, and boy, that kind of distracts you. But Toaster was there. Rayford Cooks, he had a hand in that as well.
This will be Montreal's 5th victory of the season, as J.C. Watts looks downfield, throws, and Ken Joyner makes the catch again at the 38-yard line with 1:26 left to play.
Well, it appears as though the Argonauts probably will not win this game, but not because of the efforts of Kenny Joyner. He's had himself a pretty good day, and once again makes another excellent catch coming across the middle.
Joyner has caught 8 for 84 yards this afternoon. 1:26 left in the 4th quarter, and the Argos have the ball at the Montreal 38-yard line. Watts' pass is caught by Paul Pearson, and that'll be another first down.
The Alouettes content to sit back in not really a prevent defense, but a deep zone defense. And of course, a veteran like Paul Pearson can find the soft spot. He found it. J.C. Watts read it. And boy, I'll tell you, stranger things have happened. They're at the 18-yard line, 1:15 remaining.
And the pass is caught for a first down by Joe Phillips. And that'll be his first reception of the ball game.
Looks as though it's probably another first down, too. So the Argonauts will be thinking, let's get into the end zone in a hurry, get the extra point, we'll trail by 3, and then see what happens. They first got to get it in the end zone, though.
As you see, it's 1:07 left on the clock. And referee Bud Ulrich blows the play dead.
Well, he does, because 77 Mark Hopkins, he was just getting back in a position. Now the referee has to allow all the players to get ready before he signals play in, and I'm sure that's what it is.
Watts looks, throws. And Steve Benjamin was there on the defensive coverage. Argo fans are not too happy. They feel that Ken Joyner was interfered with, but it was simply that Steve Benjamin was on him like a horse blanket. He just didn't give him any room. Good defensive play by the cornerback of the Alouettes. And that brings the clock to 56 seconds.
Well, I've been impressed with this Alouette secondary this afternoon. Of course, they've given up some yardage, but, you know, they haven't made any mistakes. They haven't given up the big play other than that one to Chris Woods on a broken play.
J.C. Watts on the draw gets into the end zone for the touchdown. It comes with 52 seconds left to play in the ball game.
Well, in the last 3 weeks, I think J.C. scored one of these every week against Ottawa, against the Ticats, and it's the quarterback draw, and on that, deep down in a team's territory, all you need is one little block. He got it, and they got the touchdown.
So now Lance Chomick will try to move the Argos to within 3. You know that we're going to have a short kickoff. Chomick's point after is good. So it's a 21-18 ball game with 52 seconds left to play. Picked up a little bit in the fourth quarter. It was kind of a yawner most of the way until Walter Lewis, in effect, I think, kind of turned the game around, got Montreal going, provided some offense.
It's funny, a couple of plays how it turns it around, too, and they were the running plays of Walter Lewis that picked up a couple of much-needed first downs on second and long situations. And, of course, his touchdown pass to Gerald Alford, but Toronto's fought right back. The touchdown by J.C. Watts. And will they try the onside kick?
I mean, I think they have no choice but to do so. I mean, if there was a minute and a half left, I'd say kick it deep. But with 52 seconds.
Well, of course, Gary Durchik, the head coach of the Alouettes, he agrees with you, Pat, because he's put in what most teams refer to as their hands team. A lot of guys up near where Lance Chomick will kick off the ball, and a lot of guys that are used to handling the football. Only one guy back, Jeff Treflin. But they've got some receivers, some defensive backs, fellows that are normally accustomed to handling that ball.
Strangely enough, there has been some offense in this game. Toronto has 22 first downs, Montreal 19. Now let's watch and see what Chomick does. It's the short one. And the Alouettes are in good shape because they've got the ball at the 34-yard line. We've got a penalty marker down on the field. Might have an offside against the Argos on the kickoff. Let's wait and see.
Oh, Lance Chomick's clapping his hands. Let's wait a minute now.
We have an offside, but it's against Montreal.
You know what it might be, Pat? They've got a couple of big guys up front. And Lloyd Fairbanks, his job on that high kick is to knock out that first Argo guy so his teammate can catch it. Now, he might have left that. He broke a little too early. He can't cross that 10-yard barrier before the ball's kicked. I'm not saying it was Lloyd Fairbanks, but he was in that area.
Montreal, 81, offside on the kickoff, re-kick.
It was actually Sandy Armstrong they called offside. It could have been Lloyd Fairbanks, too, because I think he moved as well. But now Chomick moves up to the 40-yard line, but the clock has wound down to 48 seconds, which means they lost 4 seconds on that. They go right back to the same play, and the Argos have the football at the Montreal 54-yard line. Marlon Jones comes up with the football for the Argos.
Well, they ran that play perfectly. You know, a couple of Montreal players went in to block and hoped that a receiver would catch it. But big old number 90, Marlon Jones, will sneak in and make this catch. You know, he's got good hands. He had an interception last week against Hamilton. He looks like a fullback going in there to take that ball, but hold on to your hat.
From the 54-yard line of Montreal, J.C. Watts from the shotgun looks, throws, and the catch is made at the Montreal 33-yard line by the newcomer, number 1, Joe Phillips.
Well, we've got another great finish here. 42 seconds remaining. He makes a nice catch to stay in bounds, number 1, and of course you stop the clock too, and there's plenty of time at least for Lance Chomix. Well, he's in range right now to tie it up. No
that was a 20-yard gain, Leaf. And now with the ball at the 34, it would only be a 41-yarder for Chomix, and that's almost automatic with him. J.C. Watts on the quarterback draw, keeps it himself and gets inside the 30 to about the 29-yard line as the clock is stopped momentarily at the 38. Dave Daniels was there to make the tackle. And we've got a timeout called by the Toronto Argonauts, who are in field goal position right now. Moments ago, they were trailing 21-11. They scored the touchdown, recovered the short kick, and now are in a position not only to tie this game, but to actually win it.
Well, absolutely, and I think they did a smart move taking the timeout with 38 seconds. You know, they could have really got up quickly and gone to that hurry-up offense to try and get a play off. But with 2nd and 7, they want to make sure just exactly what they want to do. If they wanted to say, you know, like Bob Rabilovich is probably saying, now listen, let's make sure we don't get goofy here and throw an interception because we're well in Lance Chomix's range to tie this game and maybe put it into overtime. So it really was a smart move to take the timeout, and nobody's excited. They can figure out exactly what they want to do. Yes, it is nail-biting time for Wally Buono. He coaches the defense, the linebackers predominantly.
Second down, and about 7 yards to go for the first down. The catch made by Chris Woods, and Woods is down to the 15-yard line with 33 seconds left on the clock. Loads of time.
Once again, it's the great block of 37 Warren Hudson. He gets out on Terry Irvin. Of course, you don't need much with the speed of Chris Woods. Here they go.
Catch is made by William Miller at about the 12-yard line. Matt Finley, the reserve linebacker, number 37, there to make the tackle with 26 seconds showing on the clock. Pickup was just a couple of yards, but it does move the ball to the 12. And what a comeback by the Toronto Argonauts. The Argos were completely out of this football game a minute ago, and now they're in the lead by 3. I'll tell you, when Montreal scored their final touchdown to go ahead by a 21-10 count, people who had been sitting on the south side just bailed out. They won't believe it when they hear that the Argos have fought back and now will be in first place in the Eastern Conference.
And that was some kind of throw by J.C. Watts. You have to give him credit. He put that ball in a super spot. Paul Pearson dug it out with a super catch. It's the 5th touchdown of the year, and what a big one.
J.C. Watts, 21 of 41 for 279 yards. And if you've just come back after having been away for a while, it'll be hard to believe. But the Argos lead it by 4, 25-21. Well, I'm glad that Leaf is going to be given the responsibility of selecting the Carling O'Keefe offensive and defensive game stars.
Yeah, you didn't say that a few weeks ago and you didn't like my choice. Well, there's a lot of guys. This is a tough game to pick an offensive game star.
Well, I'm going to vote for Terry Irvin on defense, and I'll let you pick the offensive.
Boy, you're all hard. I knew I could count on you.
Well, let's see now what the Alouettes can do with just 19 seconds left They'll have about 12 seconds after they return the kickoff, and they'll have a timeout as well. Who knows, the way this game has gone, Walter Lewis may come in and direct them to a touchdown. Gerald Alphen from his 16-yard line. And they rule that he stepped out at about the 38. Just as well for the Argonauts that he did, because after he had hurdled that tackler, there was nobody that was going to prevent him from going all the way. Of course, it makes it easier, I guess, if you extend the field 63 yards as opposed to 60.
Absolutely.
Okay, there's 14 seconds left to play in the fourth quarter. Toronto leads it by 4 points. Alouettes have one timeout remaining. Walter Lewis buys some time, and now decides to run and gets to the 47-yard line with just 4 seconds left. And it's immaterial. He calls the timeout now, but there's not going to be much the Alouettes can do except throw the long one and hope for the best. Well, the fates really smiled on the Argos, because after they scored the touchdown to put them to within 3, they tried the short kickoff. There was a penalty against Montreal after they had recovered the ball. So the Argos were given an opportunity of doing it again, and this time Marlon Jones was able to make the recovery, and then the Argos went down to score again.
Well, he made a great recovery. That was a super kick by Lance Chalmik to get it to him, but you know, all the teams practice this on both sides of the football. They practice recovering those kicks, and they practice defending against them. That time, though, Marlon Jones made a good catch, and the rest is history. Give J.C. Watts a lot of credit, though.
Yes.
That quarterback draw for the touchdown, and then a couple of great throws. That throw to Paul Pearson was just a beauty. You know, that's the only spot he could have put it, or David Martin, the defender, would have made the play.
Well, the Argos are playing a 4 deep zone.
Well, they won't even get on the film of the game with this. They're so far back.
Ball is ultimately intercepted by the Argonauts, and that is going to do it as Paul Tripoli ends up with the football. But the Toronto Argonauts, with a dramatic finish, end up with a 25-21 victory after Montreal had led virtually the entire ball game. The CFL on CTV continues in a moment.
And now the Carling O'Keefe Sports offensive and defensive game stars as selected by our broadcast crew. From the Toronto Argonauts, quarterback J.C. Watts is the offensive star. 2 touchdown passes today. Teammate, Montreal Alouette cornerback Terry Irvin with 4 interceptions is the defensive star. Each of tonight's stars will receive a Royal Canadian Mint 1-ounce solid gold coin presented by Mita. Mita didn't get to be the fastest growing copier company by making cameras. Mita, just great copiers, nothing else. And by Tilly, bringing together quality and creativity in all their products, from their line of personal leather goods through to their travel wear. This is the CFL on CTV. Playing at home, beat the Montreal Alouettes 25-21 to up their record to 9-8, and once again, the Argonauts are in first place in the CFL East as they head to Montreal to close the season next week. The Tiger Cats, meanwhile, are at home Friday night, and that's a game you can watch here on CTV. They'll want first place back. They play host to the Ottawa Rough Riders. 2 more games next weekend on CTV. Ought to be a dandy. Winnipeg at BC, the Bombers and the Lions, Saskatchewan at Edmonton on Sunday. Just a reminder, stay tuned. 1986 Skate Canada is next on CTV. Copyright. This program is copyright and is strictly intended for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, retransmission, or rebroadcast without the express written consent of the CTV television network is strictly prohibited.
This is the CTV Television Network.
Tom Cruise in Risky Business at 4:30 on CFCN.
Play the Calgary Sun CFCN television bonus game.
Winnipeg by 10. I mentioned the other football game this afternoon. The Toronto Argonauts back in sole possession of first place by a point ahead of the Hamilton Ticats as they defeat Montreal. All action coming in the fourth quarter. Here's Brian Ransom for the Alouettes to Gerald Elfin, a 20-yard touchdown, his second of the game. It was 21-11 for Montreal. They appeared to be home free. Now, final minute of the game, J.C. Watts with a touchdown, 6-yard run. Argos trailed 21-18. Here's the winning touchdown, J.C. Watts to Paul Pearson out of the University of British Columbia. The Argonauts scoring twice in the final minute. They are back in sole possession of first place in the Eastern Conference. Drugs and pro sports very much in the news this week. Of course, Hec Pache, the veteran lineman for the Edmonton Eskimos, arrested for possessing hashish in Winnipeg, suspended for a year and a half by Commissioner Doug Mitchell. Lamar Hoyt of San Diego arrested for importing drugs from Mexico to California. Borja Salming is back with the Toronto Maple Leafs after an 8-game suspension for admittedly using cocaine.
There's a lot of people out there that seem to want to hang me. Where's the Christian ethic that us North Americans always, say we stand by so strongly? Because obviously a lot of people are forgetting about, that people do make mistakes, and every once in a while you're supposed to find it in your heart to say, okay, let's forgive the guy, let's not crucify him for it.
It's ironic that this week the Canadian Football League combined forces with the National Hockey League along with the RCMP and our country's Solicitor General to fight drug use and abuse all over this country of ours.
I fully believe that along with drug enforcement must come drug education. We have to do more to impress upon Canadians, and especially youth, that taking illegal drugs is socially and personally unacceptable.
The Canadian Football League is tremendously indebted to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police for the education program which they've provided to us over the last 2 years. When contact was first made with their department and asked whether or not they would be available to provide this education, the response was quick and to the point, and they provided the services to us. And I think it provided us with a great input, which we needed at that time.
And they had an idea that they could meet with our young men who play the game, and that they might make good representatives to deliver a message that you should stay away from drugs.
Commissioner, how did you decide on the suspension that you levied on Hec Pache? Why a season and a half, for example?
Well, I looked at it on the basis of what was required in order to get us in a position that it would be seen as a deterrent to any further drug use.
There have been those who have suggested that because of this program announced this week, you acted as quickly and as sternly as you did. Had this not been the case, that you might not have acted as strongly against Pache.
That's nonsense. It's been my policy. I've been enunciating it for months. We went on a tour. We told people what was going to happen. I just followed up on what we said we were going to do.
It's a darn tough decision, and I respect the commissioner for having the courage to make a decision.
It's interesting. Pache was given an absolute discharge by the judge in Winnipeg. Still, the commissioner had to take action. For years, we've been complaining that the people that run all pro sports are weak-kneed and refuse to face up to the drug problems in pro sports. However, in addition to hard action for use, I think 2 areas lacking, and I'm talking in all sports, are education and rehabilitation as far as drug use is concerned. Stay with us. Up next, we'll introduce you to Winnipeg's Perry Tuttle as the CFL on CBC continues.